Excellent. All right. So the last time we played, a couple of things happened. One of the things that what we closed off was that you guys were making your way to Gallowfend to get into Duke Gallo's territory and away from the Talons. And so a couple of things had happened. You had been confronted by a patrol before you had even gotten into Duke Gallo's territory. You were confronted by a patrol of Talons who tried to capture you, and that did not go well for them in any real way. So after you left with their horses and left their dead, steaming bodies in the snow, you guys carried on for another day or two. When you came across, sort of without warning, you came across a what looked to be, well, at first you thought it was more Talons because it was sort of a group of people sort of out in the wilderness, and you thought that maybe this was a a sort of a long range patrol on the lookout for you guys. When the reality was they were very different. It wasn't Talons at all. It was a couple of human Sargavans and a couple of halflings that seemed to be employees or hirelings of some sort. So understanding that they're Sargavans and having a bit of animosity towards that particular group of people, you guys rushed the place, killed everybody, and took all their
Wait,
equipment.
we killed everybody?
I think so. If I have to check the video, but if I recall correctly, there were several murders. So, but you guys managed to get through that. Now that was territorially, that was just sort of almost on the border between Duke Gallo's territory and the territory that you were coming out of, and sort of out of the way too. So it was really curious that there were Sargavans and halflings who seemed to be of the tribes of the Northwest. You know, the Fire Forest, the crazy demon worshipping halflings that you guys had fought previously back when you were up in the north. And what they were doing here out in essentially the middle of nowhere with a bunch of supplies and weapons seemed quite odd, although they were killed too fast to really interrogate properly. You guys took some of the treasure, kept making your way to Gallowfend, and entered properly into Duke Gallo's territory, where you were confronted by the people who are on the screen right now. A dwarven captain named Heritage, and a crew of armored dwarves and humans out on a patrol. At first they seemed suspicious, but once they saw Ambassador Ginnis, everything became much more friendly because Captain Heritage, knew Ginnis, knew of the situation that Ginnis had been imprisoned in Bresk, and you were then welcomed and as people who were friends of Gallo, that kind of thing, and not to be. Not to be harassed or trusted. In fact, they offered to escort you all the way back. You're still a couple of days out from Gallowfend, and so um, they offered to escort you to that you join them. That way, you would be safe from any other, any long range Talon platoons or any other groups of people who might otherwise attack or harass you. And which, if I recall correctly, you guys accepted that offer, and that's kind of where we stopped last time. You guys had linked up with this patrol and began making your way with more alacrity, or at least more safety. Maybe not as fast, but certainly in a more safe conditions towards the castle of Gallowfend. In this case, certainly Captain Heritage is interested in what you guys have to say. So I'm curious if there are, as we sort of get going, are there things that you want to withhold, or are you pretty open? It seems apparent to you that this Heritage is, quite high up or seems to be quite high up in in Gallo's esteem. Ginnis certainly knows him. They've known each other for years, and Ginnis tells you that anything that you would trust with Gallo, you could trust with Heritage. He's a captain in Gallo's armies, and that Gallo and Heritage sort of grew up together, so they've known each other for pretty much their whole lives. But Heritage is definitely interested as you guys travel along. He's interested in hearing the stories. In fact, to your guys is this: the questions that he asks are in many ways trying to get information from you guys about what is going on with King Steppengard and Bresk. He's very interested, and you get the impression that these guys really don't have a ton of information, at least not since at least since Ginnis was taken prisoner, and Gallo had been declared, Steppengard declared Gallo a traitor to the realm, that kind of thing. They really haven't had any information, so he's very curious about what's going on in the capital, and that kind of stuff. He at first he braces Ginnis about it, and Ginnis doesn't really know anything because he had been in jail. So he's like, I don't know. You got to talk to these guys. These guys had all kinds of things going on. They busted me out of jail. Sounds like they pissed off everybody down the road. They've murdered everybody they've come into. I mean, if anybody knows what's going on, it's these guys here. So
I,
Heritage is
I would
basically
like
like,
I would like our friend the diplomat to stop using the M word.
okay,
Yes.
We acted in self-defense or in his defense. We didn't M anyone.
it's a good point. He will grant that these were almost entirely justifiable homicides.
The DM monologue is fake news.
It's fake
Fake
news.
news.
It's got spin on it. Stop it.
Mhm.
I should have a CNN logo down here.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, Arendar will not be shy in sharing his opinion on what's going on.
So what do you
He
tell?
has,
So
he
I'm
has,
very
he has
curious.
kind of
What do you tell him?
opinionated.
Because he's
Poe
got a lot
likes
of
these guys
questions.
too. Poe would not be reticent at all in giving them information about what's been going on. He's
So
told them
Arendar
about
will bluntly tell him how it is, at least how he sees it,
okay.
which you know how that is. So
Well, I'm curious as to what you would say to him. I mean, it's like, look, they're out to get you guys, and
Oh, yeah.
we only just barely escaped with our lives, and they've sent out battalion patrols after us to try and kill us.
yeah, and Umbridge tried to sweet talk
Umbridge.
us, but we didn't bite. So there's something
King's
going
going
on
off
with
the
that.
deep end.
Yeah, there's something going with that little woman that's not right. Um,
Well,
and yeah,
basically,
we've still got contacts there, and
they imprisoned your diplomat and they declared your liege lord a traitor. What part of that makes you not understand what's going on?
Well, I mean, and part of it is I mean, Heritage will be, quite open with you. It was like, we just don't understand why. We understand that the last thing we understood here, and keep in mind that Gallowfend is like 2 weeks, well, close to at least 10 days travel, and it's pretty rough travel from between 10 days and 2 weeks from Bresk. So I mean, this is mountainous, hard terrain, that kind of thing. And so they just haven't got any news. And they were like, they had heard, basically they'll tell you, they had heard that Steppengard's family had died, and then there was some rumors that there was some discussion that they had been poisoned or assassinated, but nobody could really confirm that. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, we get a messenger that basically says, Duke Gallo is a traitor. He's supposed to report to Bresk and face charges. That Ambassador Ginnis had been imprisoned, and we were just like, what happened? We didn't know. All of it happened so quickly.
the Sargavans happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sir Gavins have infiltrated the whole level of command around the king, apparently.
Well, that strikes Heritage. He doesn't like that at all. You can tell that Heritage is no fan of the Sargavans, and if anything, if he represents the feelings of Gallo, you've found a common friend here, a common enemy of the Sargavans. Heritage will admit that he has fought Sargavan, militia and raiders on a couple of different occasions, and he had done some time, down in the Mwangi Expanse where the Sargavans had continued to sort of ingress onto Mwangi lands, and he had joined, a Condottieri sort of group down there of dwarves and men and Mwangi to fight against. So he's fought against the Sargavans. You get the impression there's no love lost between Heritage and the Sargavans. So he's like, if there's anything that endears you more to him, your opinions on the Sargavans are will do that. But the fact that they are involved and they seem to be manipulating the king, that saddens him, because you could tell that he also is quite loyal to the king, that, you know, he considers Steppengard to be his lawful king, and you know, in any other situation would be loyal. They're just like confused as to what happened. So Gallo, you know, they hear about the killings, and then suddenly Gallo's a traitor. The ambassador Ginnis is imprisoned, and everybody's pointing the finger to the southwest, and nobody seems to understand how this could have happened. He tells you straight out. He says, you're going to have to repeat all this for Gallo, because while he has lines of communication that I personally don't have, we're just not sure what's going on in Brest, and it sounds like you guys are pretty close to it.
It's
He
not
also
just Brest. I mean, the entire. It feels like to me that Gallo is kind of the last stand, which is why he's being labeled as a traitor. I mean, all the Sargavans have infiltrated all of these major territories, the leaders, and I mean, it seems like nobody is supporting this war against the Sargavans except for, you know, Gallo, which I think hopefully he's still doing that.
Well, so for Herdiage's part, he'll tell you, he says, look, you know, we control the Elite Pass. And we know there's a Sargavan army at the southeastern part of the pass. We suspect that there have been Sargavan infiltrators into the mountains, although our patrols haven't really discovered any.
We found some.
Did you? Well, so that if you say that, he's like, I'm very interested to know what you found out. Did they talk? Did you get, you know, did you find any documents? Did you find any?
They didn't really live
The whole
that
talking
long.
thing.
They talked, but there was so much blood coming out of their mouth they couldn't really, you know.
Sorry.
That happens sometimes, you know.
That was our bad.
Was that wrong? Did I, you know? Because if somebody had mentioned interrogations, no, okay. So
Actually, we share with them everything that we found out.
yeah, he'd be very interested to know, you know, the location and that kind of stuff. And he actually calls a couple, as you guys are telling the story, he'll call a couple of his men, you know, sergeants and that kind of stuff, and let them know, you know, hey, we need to, when we get back, we need to send some guys out to check this out, and that kind of stuff. We're not turning back because we need to get you guys safely to Gallowfend, but and I need, you know, I got to bring, we've been out on patrol for a while. So, you know, a couple of days. So we want to get back, but yeah, he's very interested in that information. It just, essentially the vibe you get is that it confirms sort of his suspicions about what's going on, because, but he also is like, it also sort of cements his stubbornness, I guess, for lack of a word. Their unwillingness to capitulate, right? They're like, look, as long as Duke Gallo holds the Elite Pass, no Sargavan will come through it. No Sargavan army come through it. We will bleed and die here if we have to, but we will not let the Sargavans pass.
I like this
And
guy.
that's why he's been called a traitor, I suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be. Well, if that's treason, so be it. Then I'm a traitor too, you say. But he does seem disappointed to hear of all the things that the king has been doing. When you tell him, you know, he's, you know, tried to have us arrested and, you know, that kind of stuff. What do you tell him anything about Jaas?
Yeah.
Do you still have Jaas's body? Yeah, I'm just.
Sure we
I
do,
think,
yeah.
yeah, I think we have that still in a bag of holding.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is why no quarter was taken on the Sargavans we found. I thought for sure they could talk to dead people.
They might be, depending on it. I mean, it's you pull a necromancer up, you know, most of the inquisitors are clerics, right? So that's where all that talking to dead people stuff comes from. So,
but we didn't keep any of them, did we?
I don't think so.
No.
That would have been a Poe decision. Poe, did you keep any of the dead Sargavans from the little camp?
With hindsight, I probably should have, but I didn't talk about doing it. So,
Gotcha.
yeah,
That
probably
happens.
didn't.
So if they send
Yeah, we're only a
group-
day out. We can kind of give them good directions on where.
if they send a group out, we can tell them to bring the frozen corpses back so that they can be spoken to.
Okay. Well, it sounds
Assuming
like they're
Gallo
going to.
has clerics.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And yeah, and Heritage would definitely detail a couple of sergeants. In fact, after that discussion, he will send them out. They pick up about a half dozen guys and head out there to go check it out now.
Yeah.
So to go, and they know it's it's a day out, so they'll go cross over. But yeah, so as he talks, he finds out that you guys mentioned you guys have been in Sequin. He knows that you're going to that you were originally, you tell him you're originally from Gate Pass. He actually mentions that a fair amount of refugees from Gate Pass eventually ended up in Gallowfend. So there might be some people there who escaped what's going on in Gate Pass. But he's like, also, we've welcomed Sequiners here. And he'll say, look, you know, um, the guy that you're with, whose name escapes me right this second.
Oh,
The 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 ambassador from Sequin.
talking about Bellin?
Balin, yeah.
Bellin?
So they know he's well known in Gallowfend and a friend of Duke Gallo. So Gallowfend and Sequin have done business together and that kind of stuff. And Heritage has actually been to Sequin, on several occasions, in a non-military kind of
It's a little more
function.
moist
So
than the last time you were there, probably.
it might be, yeah, a little damp. But yeah, I mean, he'd be interested to hear what's going on. He knows people there. He heard about the battle. That was, I guess, probably a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. He heard about all that and was saddened because he knows the elves of the plains. And while there's always been that sort of underlying animosity between elves and dwarves that really doesn't exist between the elves of the plains and the dwarves of the Bandu Hills. They've been friends and trading partners for a long time. He's never met the princess that you guys had met, but
Yeah,
he certainly knows of her.
we actually talked to her to try and keep them from, wiping Sequin off the map.
Well, I mean, after what happened, I mean, if you tell him about
Oh, yeah.
about the Paladin, Lorabeck, and those guys, I mean, he would be like, honestly, you may have forestalled a pretty significant. I mean, it would not be out of the question for the elves of the plains to in fact be fully capable of wiping Sequin off the map. Sequin it's a big town and an important town with the Lyceum and everything, but it's not historically been a military stronghold.
Right.
Whereas the Elvish,
Well, Napoleon there is trying to change that.
Well, he hasn't heard much about that. He hasn't been to Sequin for a while, and other than some of the fighting that he's heard about, there hasn't been much news.
Yeah, we'd like to defend ourselves against him also.
Okay. But so yeah, I mean, the more you talk to this guy, the friendlier he gets, I mean, he's humongously interested in what thoughts and theories and experiences that you had in Bresk, just because of the fact you get the impression that there's just been a paucity of information since all this began. And you're looking at the spring thaws are going to be coming in a couple of weeks. We're in the earliest parts of spring, and while the paths are still, the Elite Pass is still blocked by snow. That's not going to last forever. It'll unblock. His estimate, Heritage's estimate, and he's lived here pretty much his whole life. His estimate is that 3 or 4 weeks before the passes unclog enough for significant numbers of soldiers and equipment and logistics. It's really about the logistics, right? It's about the wagons. It's not about foot soldiers. It's about getting wagons through the pass so that they have supplies. And he said I would say no more than a month before the pass opens. But he definitely becomes increasingly friendly with you guys, especially those of you who are warriors, Aladar, especially and Wraith and Poe, those of you who obviously have some martial abilities. He's definitely a martial guy, so it's sort of shared background, that kind of stuff. But he also is as a friend. It's obvious also to you that he and Ambassador Jinnis have known each other for a long time and are friends. And even Balin sort of recognizes him, and he certainly recognizes Balin. So he's more than happy to take you guys to Gallowfend.
Need your help getting Cohen to do what I asked him to do.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
My
What
internet
did you say, Andrew?
keeps.
What's that?
I didn't hear what Andrew said.
No, that was
I didn't
Mike.
say anything.
I think his wife requested he come help with the beating of a child.
Maybe not the beating. I think that was what the point was, to avoid the beating.
I'm gonna turn my camera off because my internet says it's unstable. See if I can get you to stop locking up on me.
No, it said you're unstable.
Oh.
Well, that might be true. I may well be unstable,
Look, we don't judge here, Chuck.
but you guys keep locking up on me.
I'm
so
judging.
I'm gonna try to get rid of this and whatever else I have open that's not gaming and see if that helps.
Cool. We don't judge, Andrew.
I do.
Perhaps happen.
Actually,
All right.
we judge
So-
quite a bit, actually.
So
Yeah,
as
That's
you
okay.
as you travel through the snowy the sort of snowy event, you have a chance to sort of ask Heritage, is there anything that you guys want to know from him before you guys get to Gallowfend?
Arendar would probably be interested
Arendar, sorry, not Al.
so since they said that he was worried about them being so loyal to the king that if the king said let him through, even though they didn't want to, they'd let him through anyway.
Well, yes, before now, yeah. I think the situation has
so-
changed.
And so since that's changed, now Arendar's a lot more interested on what their defenses are, how they defend that gap, and just wanted to try and learn experience wise, what they've got in place, and then
Well,
also
so they have a fair amount of stuff in place. So there are near Gallowfend, and he kind of pulls out a little chart to show you of the region around Gallowfend. So let's take a look at that chart. Why don't we? So here he goes, look, basically this is the surrounding area of Gallowfend, and you can see the Gallowfend is here. So let me just go ahead and put this on there. Whoops. It's going to be a pain in my neck, isn't it? Let's see if this works. Well, that worked. So this is where, oh, stop. So this is where Gallowfend is, and it's about 200 feet up. It's essentially up. There's a couple little paths that go up, and it's constructed in a little bit in similar fashion to the way Bresk is constructed. So if you remember going to Bresk is essentially a city inside a mountain. And it was carved out of the mountain. So everything is sort of inside the mountain itself. Now, there's obviously a lot of stuff outside of the mountain, sort of in the approach to Bresk, but Gallowfend is in many ways the same in that it's the bulk of the city is inside the mountain. Now, in this case, rather than through the side of the mountain like Bresk is, it's more along the lines of on top of a mountain, right? So there's the big, what they would call the fortress, or the locals call it the fortress. It looks essentially like a giant castle. And then what you have is the city itself is underneath that in the mountain itself, going down into the mountain. So that's where Gallowfend is. Now that you can see the terrain in this area is quite interesting. So you have a couple of things here. And the first thing I'm going to show you is the Nash. So that's the Nasham River. That river goes very close by to Gallowfend, although it's down about 100 feet where it sort of pools. And this is Gallowfend's primary source of fresh water. Although the fresh water comes from they've burrowed holes from the city into the river, so it comes. It's not like they go out there with buckets. But that's the Nasham River, and it kind of cuts through there. It also cuts through the Aliti Pass. So the Aliti Gap is this area right here. It really sort of goes through the whole region right by things. So that's the Aliti Gap right there. And you can see there's a couple of things that you want to notice here. One, it's quite skinny at the point where the Nasham River flows through it, right? And the Nasham River flows from left to right on this map. So it flows down from the mountains into the gap and across this plains area. So the yellow circles are let's see if they are sort of, so these are strongholds. Now these are actually little little sub fortresses that are all along the gap that sort of oversee it at this point. There's also a place, a little town called Markhold, which is that green one right there. That's a little town that is, sort of very close to the gap. It's older than Gallowfend, and so it's been there a long time, but it's much smaller. The strongholds are essentially. Hey, Eric, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
Yep, sure can.
Hooray. Good to see you all.
Good to see
I'm
you, buddy.
sorry that I'm late, but I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you, brother.
Yay.
So these strongholds sort of overlook the gap at 100 on the cliffs, and they are also tunneled. They have tunnels to each other, tunnels to Markhold, and then the one closest to Gallowfend actually has tunnels to Gallowfend. So from Gallowfend itself, depending on, well, you can't cross the gap, but those strongholds that are on the left side can be supplied and manned from Gallowfend itself. Now on the other side, there's obviously more strongholds on that side. You can't directly do that, but they also have tunnels in between them that allow men and supplies to go back and forth. I'm sorry? Did somebody say something? Oh, was that you? Okay, never mind. Then
talking.
Finally, you have a little what's called the Little Elite, which is another sort of channel. Now it's higher up and it feeds into the Elite Gap, but that is a channel that sort of goes around the other side of Gallowfend. This is used in many ways to move men and material outside of the gap up into the mountains and largely Gallowfend. Rather than try to climb this 200-foot area here straight up, you take the Little Elite, which kind of wends around a little bit, but ultimately goes very close to Gallowfend and climbs upward as you go through it. So oftentimes when if men and material are needed to be put either taken in or put out of the Elite Gap itself, they'll use at least around Gallowfend, they'll use the Little Elite to move that material. But that's what the area looks like. So from the point of view, and he'll tell you right now, if we're likely to get Sargavans, they're probably going to come from this direction.
Right.
They're coming from the southeast, technically. Towards the northeast, that goes out. The Elite Gap eventually goes out into the plains, into the plains of the elves, and that's that.
And he says these guys are on good terms with the elves.
Yeah.
So, and I'll tell them, we've already met with I guess the princess, because I said we pled our case that okay, crazy Napoleon's causing all your issues. It's not really most of us in Sequin.
Well, and as far as you've heard, the elves have not attacked Sequin.
Right.
So it could be that your entreaties were I mean, it worked. You were
right.
persuasive.
But so the other thing is I will tell them is that when we talked to the princess, she was not aware that a bunch of Sargavans were about to come through this pass or could be coming through this pass at any moment. So
we sort of knew that there was Sargavans were gathering down in that area, but we it was
pretty sure their plan is to come through this pass, now that they've screwed with the king and get him to okay it. And then they're going to wipe out the elves and then just come through and wipe out Sequin as well.
Right, exactly. So, they knew that they were down there. Let me try this other regional map. Maybe this is better. Yeah, there we go. All right. So, so here's the regional battle map, and they knew that there were guys down here, but it took a while. They were saying they didn't expect there to be so many, especially this close to the Screaming Jungle. They knew that that the Sargavans were not having a ton of success down in the south against the Mwangi, and so they assumed
the longer they stay there, the more they're going to get picked off by the dudes from
right. Exactly. You can say a lot about the Mwangi, but you can't really criticize their abilities from the point of view of a guerrilla war, and it's their territory, right? And they've essentially, as far as anybody knows, the Mazzali have stopped the Sargavans at the river. and they have not gone past. In fact, if anything, they're holding the river down, and they're being supplied by the Osibu, who are harassing Five Corps in the in the south. So from Heritage's point of view, he says the longer we can keep the Sargavans outside of the Elite Pass, that gives the Osibu Mwangi the
Chance
more
to
and more
get back at 'em
opportunity
and
to
take 'em
harass
out.
them. Yeah, exactly. There's not enough. There's not enough Mwangi there, and they're not. Or they're not. How's it? They're guerrilla fighters at best.
Mhm.
And he'll say, "Don't get me wrong." They are some. I have fought with the Mwangi. I've fought side by side with Mwangi fighters, and they're some of the bravest men I've ever fought with. But they are not
They're not
organized
organized armed.
military guys, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't form up into corps and groups. They are fantastic guerrilla fighters, but that's as good as they'll ever be.
Well, I'll tell him as part of his tactic, just from what we found out from the princess.
Hmm.
I said, I know they're fighting their own war over in the southwest
Hmm.
of their territory, but knowing how they would get wiped if someone came through here, you might be able, if you're on good terms with them, you might be able to negotiate with them. And since it looks like all your defenses are set up to be ranged and just rain fury down on the pass,
Hmm.
you might be able to get some help from them to help with some extra manpower.
Well, he says, and so one of the things that you notice as you travel through that, and you pass through a lot of Duke Gallo's places, and you do pass, as you pass through Duke Gallo's realm, you do pass by little towns and mining villages and stuff like that, where Heritage basically gets out and tells people, and he's very open about it. He's like, look, we expect that there's going to be problems, and we expect you to send. So he advises the people in the villages to store some food and water, expect that there might be military things, and if you can, spare some soldiers to send to Gallowfend because we're trying to rebuild the army. That's basically what he was out here doing.
Okay.
Is sort of saying, visiting all the little villages and stuff like that to try and get them to send people.
Okay. I'm just saying an extra avenue since the elves know they're wiped if an army comes through here. They
Yep.
might have a little bit that they could supplement your forces with that just might help out.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
Didn't the Osibo say they were coming and like they're coming to attack? I thought there was a big force coming from the north.
Yeah, so that was what you were told. According to Heritage, however, they don't. I mean, an Osibu army would be much more like the Plains guys from Game of Thrones. I forget what their names were. The guys who rode horses and had those weird curved swords that the
Something.
Horse clan of some kind.
Yeah, those horse clans. They're more like that. So they're not really an organized and trained military. It's more like some very talented guerrilla fighters and mob fighters. Think something along the lines of like a Genghis Khan mounted archers kind of stuff. Now they have in their territories they're great, and they're almost certainly. I mean, he'll tell you. I guarantee you they are harassing Five Corps, cutting off supplies, burning things, attacking patrols, that kind of stuff. But to do a
They're not going to do a full frontal assault.
they're not going to do a face-to-face, a stand-up fight. That's not one. It's not the Mwangi way to do things. Typically, they don't like to fight that way, and they're really not trained to fight that way.
Okay.
So there's probably a buttload of Osibu Mwangi out there fighting the Sargavans, but they're not fighting them in like armies.
Right.
It would be more like a big guerrilla war.
So I don't want to bore the rest of the players with the details of this, but Arundar would be very much into the weeds on this conversation with him as they're traveling back and just talking about this kind of stuff. So
yeah, basically,
I don't want to go over it now. I'm just saying he would, anytime he wanted to talk about the defenses and what their plans are and how they're doing stuff, Arundar would be very interested in that. And
well, he's like, well, we're building the defenses now. So Gallowfend's water supply is secure, provided it doesn't get poisoned. But it's a lot of water to get poisoned. And even if the Sargavans were on our doorstep, which frankly, no enemy army has come to Gallowfend and crossed the Nasham River in 200 years. We've stopped them. Usually he'll tell you, usually those battles, those historical battles take place out here. This is a flat land. This is flatter land. And it's typically stuff, it doesn't, between the Nasham River, which is a relatively deep, relatively fast flowing river, so it's difficult to traverse, and the gap itself, which is essentially at this point a canyon. Gallowfend is in a really sort of exquisite defensive position, especially because it controls the heights. Now, there have been historical elements that have tried to come from behind and come on the heights, but this territory up here, way up in this mountainous area, is so harsh that unless you're a dwarven army from the Bandu Hills, the likelihood of you being prepared to deal with the harsh weather and terrain of that,
And getting logistics around through that.
and getting the logistics around. Yeah, I mean, what is it? The old phrase, amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk about logistics. And yeah, getting us to supplying an army in those mountains would be difficult, to say the least.
Yeah.
So they've been pulling stores ever since they heard the traitor thing. They've been reaching out to Heritage was that we've been reaching out to the villages and we've been gathering soldiers. Right, if you ask them right now, Heritage would say, well, probably between, he said, if he had to guess at how many soldiers Gallowfend could put in the field today, he would say probably between 5,000 and 8,000 soldiers. But he said half of those would be veteran, dwarven, heavy foot, and human militia. These guys, they're tough. They know the terrain, and they would be more than a match for any Sargavan regular. He said the other half of that army, though, is going to be a lot of times farm kids, miners. Their hearts are in the right place. They're just not trained as well. Now, the ones that have showed up at Gallowfend are getting a crash course on how to kick the shit out of people, but they're not professional soldiers.
Right.
So probably between 3,000 and 4,000 professional soldiers is what he's got right now. Now we're trying to get more people, to get more levies. That's what I'm out here doing, to get more soldiers. Hopefully, with hope, our goal is to get 10,000 bodies that can be put in the field.
Okay, cool.
But we don't know. I mean, but the reality is, well, how big's 5 Corps? 25,000 people, and it's a Sargavan army. It's the biggest Sargavan army. So, and it's run by veteran commanders, who know what they're about. They've got a field marshal in charge, a senior inquisitor. It's the biggest army. They estimate, at least their spies have told us, their spies, Gallo spies, and Rangers have told them that they estimate that army at about 25,000 soldiers.
Okay.
So imagine, and the Sargavans are a little bit like, imagine Romans, right? They're tactically proficient. They have siege engines. They have the equipment they need. They have supplies. These guys are professionals. They're professional soldiers. A lot of them. So one of the things that Heritage will tell you is a lot of them aren't even Sargavan. They're Chalaxians. So whatever started this war, it's definitely supported by Cheliax.
Those guys suck anyway, so.
They do. And so Sargava is essentially a Chalaxian colony in Mwangi, right? So they've been, he goes, I haven't seen the water of Desperation Bay for many years, but I'm seeing Chalaxian division. We're hearing that there are divisions of full-on Chalaxians from across the Inner Sea that are in place with the Sargavan natives. Well, the Sargavans aren't even natives; they're colonists. Yeah. So
came a long way to die.
Well, there's a lot of them. Even if Gallowfend, so Heritage was like, we have the advantage. We know the pass. We know the terrain. We know how harsh it will be. We have a good equipment, and we know our backyard. But if they've got 3-1 against, and the blessing of the king, which means we can't really call upon our neighbors for help. He goes, I'm nobody's idea of a pessimist, but from a practical military standpoint, they'll beat us. They'll beat us. He goes, unless unless we can get assistance from some of our neighbors, and we can we can change the mind of the king. I mean, realistically, what would normally happen under normal circumstances is the king would rally all the dwarves throughout the Bandu Hills, all to focus on the Elite Pass. It's been done before. You know, if you rallied everybody, I mean, you could bring 60 to 80,000 dwarves, most of them fighters, to the Bandu Hills. He goes, no army on this planet could stand against us in the Elite. But he goes, we don't see that happening.
Okay.
Now, I do. He goes, I do know that Gallo has sent uh, um, messengers out to. So you know, Balin is like, well, has he talked to anybody? What's the dealio? You know, that kind of thing. He has sent messengers to a couple of the other lords of the council to see whom he could get. So he sent messengers to Dashgaban and Timor, so to solicit for help, because you know, he's like, you know, if you could send help. So Dashgaban is, sorry, my notebook fell. Dashgaban is that guy, another dwarf, and then Lady Timor is where's Lady Timor? Oh, the human. So, and I think they're,
Is she the wizard one?
yeah, she's the wizard. So let
That's
me
why
check.
she's willing to talk, because Sargavin would wipe her whole.
Yeah, she's not happy about that. So I'm looking at, where's the thing? Hold on a second. I'm trying to find where they're busted out.
Oh yeah, yeah. You got one that has.
Yeah, I got one somewhere, but I think I may have archived it. But anyway, they're the next door neighbors essentially. I'll, I don't know where it is. Sorry.
Well,
If I find it, I'll pull it up. But yeah,
back.
basically, he sent out messengers to the people that he feels would be most likely to align with him against, yeah, against them. And you know, but he hasn't heard back yet.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We just need to get back and talk with what's his name and figure out what our next step is. So.
Yep. So that's the situation as it stands right now. And you know, he's a little bit nervous, frankly. You know, he's like, look, I've fought Sargavans. I've fought, you know, a variety of different people. I'm not a coward, but he goes, practically speaking, unless we can get assistance from Dashgaban and Timor, and I mean real assistance, we'll put up a good fight. But I just do not think we can stand against a 25,000 strong Chilaxian army.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
I don't have any other questions other than, like I said, the rest of the way back, Arendar will be talking about this kind of stuff. But
so pretty soon, it takes about a day and a half, 2 days, but you eventually find your way back, and Heritage will be like, we have returned. Soon you'll be able to see Gallowfend. And sure enough, about a half day's ride later, you eventually see the Gallowfend, the hold of Duke Gallo. And it is the main pathway sort of is up this way and goes into the main doors, which are right here. It is a fortress. It's a castle, and it's atop sort of a plateau of the mountain. You can see the higher mountains in the background. That's that mountain, that terrain that they don't worry about defending too much because it's so difficult. But yeah, you can see it. Now, what Heritage basically says is the fortress is just the peak of the city. Most of the city is burrowed downward into the mountain. You could tell that both Heritage and Jinnis and Balin are all pretty much happy to see it. Ah, finally, Gallowfend, we can we'll be safe here. And Balin sort of, you know, Balin, you know, is sort of acting a little, not weird, but he seems incredibly relieved, a sense of relief that he didn't necessarily seem to exhibit while you guys were with Heritage, but still on the road. Heritage, but still on the road. Now that you're in sight of Gallowfend, he seems like a load has been taken off of his, weight has been lifted from his shoulders.
Hmm.
So you guys, it takes you about another 3 hours to sort of wend away around the various kinds of paths and stuff like that. But eventually you find yourselves at the gate of Gallowfend. You find yourselves at this point right here on this road. And standing out
Okay,
front,
we attack.
we attack? Okay, good. A frontal assault? That's so
Full
unlike you
frontal
guys.
assault. That's kind of our MO.
That's your
Pretty
thing.
much.
That's
We
the way
gotta
we do
kill
it.
them before they can give us any real information.
Get the siege weapons out of the bag of holding.
Get the siege weapons. Ballistamy. Um, so so yeah, as you approach, you see that there's already a group of people standing outside, and one of whom you recognize, standing outside of the gates, looking at you, and awaiting you, is a group of courtier-looking people, in thick robes and that kind of stuff. And standing in the middle of them is, it looks to be Duke Gallo. As you get
Wow.
close enough, he yells out, "Heritage, my old friend, welcome home. Who have you brought with you?" And you see Ginnis actually disembarks from, sort of dismounts from his thing and runs forward and gives Gallo. He's like, "Ginnis, my friend!" And they see them, huge hug, as they think. Heritage dismounts and he advises, he says to you guys, "Allow me to introduce you to the Duke. Follow me." And the Duke comes to you and he says, "So Ginnis," he says, "Ginnis tells me that you are the men who
Men in black.
who rescued my friend from the tortures of King Bresk's prisons. And for that, I am eternally grateful. You are welcome here in Gallowfend, and friends of mine. I'm glad you are here. We have much to discuss. Will you come in and feast with me?"
Had me a feast.
Yeah, Heritage is like, "Yeah, I'll feast with you, boss. I've been on the road for 4 days. I'm ready for feasting." So yeah, so you basically go there, you get a picture of Gallowfend and the surrounding area, and it does basically look a lot like the chart that you saw. You guys basically came up through this path. You guys came from this direction on the north side, so you guys are north of the Nasham River, came across the Elite Gap and came through here, the Little Elite, to get up into Gallowfend from this way. And as you go through there, you see that there's a variety of stuff going on. I mean, you're not the only people in that gap. There's wagons going up to Gallowfend. There's people and soldiers going out to the various strongholds and that kind of stuff. And most people seem like they know Heritage. A lot of the soldiers know of him. He salutes many of them, that kind of thing. And you guys are welcomed into the city. As you guys go in. So the Duke Gallo is basically talking with Heritage and Ginnis, and Balin sort of goes out there. He's like, "Oh, Balin, my old friend, it's good to see you again as well. I'm glad that you were not imprisoned as well." He's like, "Well, it's because of these guys. They helped me out." He's like, "I definitely want to talk with these men. Let me." He turns around and he says, "You are probably tired from the road. You could use warm water and perhaps a drink. I've arranged for accommodations for you. My assistant, Lord Roger, will take you there, and have him. If you have any needs that you need attended to, he will see to it. I will meet with you. The feast will begin in about 3 hours. If you, I will send people there to join me. But if you have anything that you need in the meantime, you need only ask. Lord Roger, take care of them." And he comes to you and he's like, "Welcome to Gallowfend. Follow me, if you will." And he takes you through the city, and you sort of wind down. There's these huge sort of winding stairs. I mean, 100 feet wide that go down into the mountain. And you're like, this is a fortress of note. It's not quite. I mean, you kind of get the scope of the place. It's not quite as big as Bresk, as the capital city, but it's pretty big. And you're thinking, you would need 10 armies of 25,000 people to break the back of this thing. It's very old, very cunningly designed, but these huge promenades and staircases, like I said, 100 feet wide, that just go down into the earth and into the mountain. This is a huge place. and it's like a city inside the mountain. There are restaurants and bars and stores and people going everywhere, and you can hear the clang of blacksmiths on every street, and all sorts of dwarves and men, and even a few half orcs that seem to be kind of going back and forth, although not many.
You got one of those
It's mostly dwarves and humans. You got one of those, yeah, in a bag.
in a bag.
I've got a bag of half orc here. Where can I put this? You guys got a bus station locker or something I can put on?
I was going to ask that every time when you need something. I was like, we've got a half orc corpse. We'd like something done with that.
All right. You will also see a lot of stuff going on from the point of view. It looks like it looks like there's a lot of activity going on, and a lot of it is what you would see like you pass several bakeries, and they're all just doing baking as much bread as possible. You see butcher shops where they're smoking and drying meat. In fact, the smoke of these things is very fragrant and mouth-watering, and but it's definitely, you get the impression that the entire city is on some sort of war footing. They're preparing. You see big wagons of food and fodder for horses and all kinds of things being taken here and there and that kind of stuff. They're definitely thing. There's small carts that are piled high with swords and shields and huge sheaves of short, stocky arrows being made for the dwarvish bows. That kind of thing. So it's they're definitely expecting the worst and preparing for it. But this guy brings you to a couple of places. He hands you a small ring. He hands it to Titus and basically says, with this ring, if you put it on, you can message me. He says, you seem to be the mage in charge here, Titus. So here, you take this. If you need anything at all, you can message me and I'll come and make sure that if it is within my power, you'll have it. Is there anything you need now? I'm having refreshments brought. These staterooms have been set aside. They're clean and warm. The fires have already been started inside each, so you'll be able to shake off some of the cold of the mountains.
Deal.
Is there anything you require? Mage armor +4? Oh, sorry. I thought that you were asking for that. Never mind.
No, we already got that. I told him we already got one.
I told them we already got one.
No, I'm ready to go.
All right, so he basically puts you in there, and and there's no lie. I mean, there's basins of both hot and cold, warm and cold water. The fires. There's a fireplace in each one of your rooms that's blazing merrily. It's only a couple of minutes. There's knocks on the door, and servants have brought food and drink for all of you. Very hearty stuff and plentiful. You were a little worried that because they're sort of on a war footing, that maybe rationing would be in place, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Delicious loaves of dark bread and roasted meat, vegetables vegetable stews and things of that nature. Very hearty food. So you do get a couple hours to rest, sort of clean up, maybe take a short nap. You've been on the road for a long time, and it's been a tough travel, but it's nice. It's very nice to sort of encounter the creature comforts of a populated area. After about 3 hours, the Lord Roger comes back and says, "Yes, I've returned. I'm here to escort you to the feast." And he does so. You travel through again through various passageways. You don't go all the way back up to the fortress, though. You go to a different place, a huge, basically Viking style hall with huge fireplaces on both ends, and servants bringing huge pitchers of ale and wine and going to the thing. It looks like the feast has already begun as you come in and are ushered over to the king's table, or the duke's table. you can see that the Duke's table has seats about 60 people, and most of those seats are full. But you guys are motioned over there have been a half dozen seats right across from the Duke and what looks to be his senior advisors, and you guys are brought over to those places. Food is immediately brought to you, and everybody sort of like is like welcomes you and that kind of stuff. And you're the ones from Sequin. Oh, Gate Pass, right? Oh, and you were welcomed heartily by the Duke. It seems very compared to sort of the more formal aspects that you saw in Bresk, like the big court and the courtiers aspect. This seems much less formal, and it's obviously that the feast has already begun, and there's it's loud and warm and smoky, but still quite bright. There's light being piped in from above through if you look at those windows, those aren't actually windows because you guys are underground. But what they've done is there are tubes. He'll explain it to you. There are sort of tubes going upward, and through what he calls a clever contrivance of mirrors, sunlight is piped down into this particular room so that everybody can see. But he basically is like, he says before we begin discussions, please feel free, have something to eat, enjoy my table. I am Ginnis and Heritage told me a little of what you informed them of your adventures, and I have to reiterate that I am much in your debt for bringing back my old friend and my ambassador Ginnis to me. I worried that he may have had fallen. And that he was, I would worried outright that he was dead, that he had been either assassinated or put to death by the perfidious elements in Steppengard's cabinet. But I do have some questions for you guys, and some interesting. But first, we eat. And so it goes on. There's a ton of people here, and people come in and out all the time. It really is not a formal dinner in the sense of a formal sort of aristocratic dinner. It does seem to be much more in style of a Viking style hall where people come in and out. There's obviously some some drinks have been poured. People on the other end are getting louder. You can hear toasts in the background being made. People are enjoying themselves. What you don't see is a lack of anything. As soon as a plate even begins to be emptied, it is replaced with a full one. As soon as a mug or a cup, is starting to get towards the dregs, it is refilled by a servant. Bottles of wine, bottles of ale, kegs and barrels of things are all tapped, and pitchers are just there's. It's almost as if there's as many servants in here feeding you guys as there are people being fed, because that's how assiduous they are and how good at their job is. As things start to wind down, the place starts to empty a bit. The final plates are pushed away, and cheeses and additional top-offs on some of the drinks are done and spread about, and smaller bowls of nuts and things of that nature. And finally, Duke Gallo goes to you and says, "Okay, well, first again, thank you. Second, I have some questions. You have been to Bresk within the last week, and it sounds like escaped there under penalty of death. I want to know. I've already talked to Ginnis and I've talked to Heritage, but neither of them were there. So here's what I want. I want to know a couple of things. What can you tell me about the condition of the king? Is he sane? Is he insane? What is going on with my liege lord?"
I'll say Arendar will speak up and talk about Umbridge just because he feels strongly about her.
Hold that thought. I want to know about this Nina Glibglammer. I want to know everything about her, but I want to know about the king first. He is, as much as he may have accused me of treason, of which he sort of smiles, of which I should assure you I am not guilty. I want to know if he's in good health, or if he is in danger. Tell me what you know about the king, and tell me what you suspect.
We can tell him what we know of him, but none of us before meeting him like last week had probably ever met him before. So
Balin had. Balin had
right.
petitioned King Steppengard before.
So Balin would probably be in the best.
Well,
I mean,
Balin,
like I said, all we can tell is what we saw, but we don't know how out of the norm that is. I mean, that's our first time meeting him, so
so Balin will start off. Said, "I'll start off because my friends here had never met the king before our petition, before we went to see him on petition on behalf of Sequin." He said he was not the king that I had spoken to before. Now, he goes, I will admit the last time that I spoke directly to King Steppengard was probably 3 years ago. Now, I had been in Brest a couple of times, but on personal rather than professional business. But the king that I spoke to this time a week ago, and the king that I spoke to 3 years ago were two different men. Now, I chalked it up initially to the king's having such a grievous affront of his family and him suffering from the grief that would naturally occur to the man, having lost such a large portion of his family, including his firstborn son, the heir apparent, um, who died as well. So while he seemed sadder, more aggressive, less likely to be swayed by logic, more likely to be swayed by emotion.
emotion. Yeah.
He goes, I chalked that up mostly. This is Balin talking. He goes, I chalked it up mostly to the fact that he had just suffered an incredible loss, one that literally changed the face of his kingship. Like I said, this firstborn son was killed. The next person in line after Steppengard was, I think, something like 4 years old. So and certainly incapable to step into the position of king. Steppengard is not a young guy either. He's probably at best late middle aged in dwarf years, and at worst early senescent. Right, so human equivalent of probably his early 60s to mid 60s from a lifespan standpoint, which means he had been probably thinking more about legacy these past several years than than somebody of a younger age would. And to have this happen to him, it must have been a terrible blow to him. And so he goes, I'll be blunt. I assumed that what we experienced when we were in his court petitioning for on behalf of Sequin, that the behavior he exhibited was due to him suffering so grief. However, my friends, and he points to you guys, may have some alternative theories because they experienced some other things that I didn't. And he sort of hands it off to you.
I'll point to Poe and Titus and say the smart one's over here, and actually Vondram too.
Paul will say that the king did not listen with any amount of reason to enough evidence that we had that he should have at least pursued what we had to say. And he showed absolutely no interest at all in having any more pursuit of the questions that we had provided and the evidence that we had provided. So he, in my opinion, he's obviously being controlled or he's crazy, but I don't think he's crazy. I think he's being controlled by someone with magic. I think this Glib Glamour is.
You think he's under some sort of enchantment, some sort of charm, perhaps?
That's
yes, that's what I think. Yeah, I think the Sir
Gavins consider reason. He's just completely oblivious.
The Sir Gavins have controlled him in some way. I don't know how. The first place I would look though is this Glib Glamour person. But,
tell me more about her. What are your impressions? Did you have an opportunity to meet this woman?
Oh yeah.
So you have met her and you've taken her measure. What sort of chancellor is she, or chamberlain is she? I guess
she's scary.
In what sense?
She has absolutely no qualifications, and she was employed basically on a whim from the king, which is the first clue that something nefarious is going on, because she doesn't belong in that position. And
she showed up and immediately climbed to like near the top, like instantly.
We sense magic where she was controlling, manipulating, enchanting,
and actually even
during the court.
Yeah, even your advisor or whatever,
Ginnis, my ambassador, my friend.
Yeah, it was obvious he was controlled.
He was controlled. He's
Or
not
he
here
was-
tonight.
or at least
He's
or at
resting
least
after his
confused.
ordeal. But
Magically
Do you-
confused, so he couldn't give
you-
good answers.
do you suspect that this glib glamour is a powerful enough enchanter to charm a king of the dwarves?
Well, not only that, but she's planned this all out, it looks like, because she actually came to us offering to give us an escape.
Right, Dad.
Good night.
Good night.
She offered to give us an escape. And obviously we didn't take it because we didn't trust her. But we found out when we had to defend ourselves later that that was all a setup. She was trying to get us somewhere where she knew we would be, and then turn us over to Sargovans or get us killed by Sargovans.
Hmm.
But we're kind of hard to kill, so and we didn't bite on that, so we didn't take that. So like I said, not only is she, I think she's, I don't know the strength of her magic. Like I said, my smart companions will know that, but I know not only does she have magic at her command, but she's also quite calculating, and I'm guessing she's a few steps ahead of us.
And your suspicion is that she is in league with the Sargovans.
Yes.
Yes, with Ambassador Saris is the
Mm-hmm.
I think the weak link here, as far as if you're looking for somebody that you can try to capture or take control of and figure out what's going on, I think he is the one that knows pretty much everything that's going on. But I mean, he's supposedly the ambassador for the Sagavans.
Ambassador Saris is known to me, although I have never met the man. Did you have an opportunity to meet him?
No, we
We didn't meet him, but we learned about him through this half orc that we're 99% sure is the one who did the assassinations on the king's family.
Really? Tell me. So Poe, you did mention. So he at this point he comes. He's like, Poe, you mentioned evidence, and some certain lines of information that you brought up. So you are. Do you have evidence or of an indication of who may have committed the crime against King Steppengard? That would be of very great interest to me.
Yes, we traced it to a half orc mercenary in the town who has worked for many years with the Sargovans, just doing all kinds of horrible things. And we actually have his body. If you would like to do a speak with dead with him, you have at it. We have done that, and we're fairly convinced that
just
yes,
typical dinner conversation.
we didn't given the
His
reception
eyebrows
we
raised
received-
about 2 millimeters.
Given the reception we received and the fact that we're at war, we did not wait to try to get justice for this person. We administered the justice that we felt was deserved based on the evidence that we had, which is fairly obvious at this point.
You'll have to forgive me. Heritage did not mention a body.
Yeah, that was probably smart of him. We don't-
I don't think Heritage even knew about it, did he?
Yeah.
I don't think you.
We don't
tell him?
typically start conversations with that.
By the way,
I would have talked to Heritage.
You wanna see the
about
body?
it, actually, 'cause, I mean,
okay.
this whole
so
thing is it's all linked together, and this half work is key to it. I mean, he's obviously the one that did all this. So
would you be? So he looks at you. He says, "One thing." He goes, "Forgive me, and I don't mean to cast aspersions, but one thing that my army does not have, and that is not common here, is necromancers. Would you be willing to put this half orc to the question again on my behalf?"
of course,
We'll let you ask questions. We don't care.
I would be obliged to you if you did. If we could do that.
Well, before he starts asking questions of the half orc, which I know is a ways away, explain to him the whole link. We found a halfling who was paying tribute, or their tribe was paying tribute to Sargovans. They were told that they would be given a month's reprieve if the halfling delivered a vial or secretly delivered a box to this half orc.
Mhm.
That box was the poison that killed the king's family and was supposed to kill him. This half orc got that box, or got the contents of it, to a cook working in the castle, in the king's castle, who then used it to introduce the poison to all the family members. The king was supposed to be poisoned as well, but he chose not to drink or eat whatever it was, and so was unaffected. But this is the chain of how this makes sense together.
Okay.
And she's still a cook for the king.
Yeah, we
So
know
this
who she
this
is.
woman
We have her name.
this woman who poisoned the king's family is still employed there.
Yes.
Ah, the perfidy has sunk to new depths. He goes,
Well,
oh, I
We didn't
grieve
have
for my
time.
king.
Yeah,
This-
we didn't have
this
time
is-
to act on her, and plus, we'd like to get her alive somehow because we need evidence. And
Well-
with us just wiping her out, there's no evidence there.
This is how
Well,
the
we do have the
Sargavans work.
books. We have books that this half orc coded for years. I think at least 10 years. He had been communicating with Sargavans.
Hmm.
And we have the coded record of how he did it and the things that he's done. So we have a
Yeah.
fairly extensive record from this half orc.
This is good news. This is
Hmm.
excellent news. And I grieve for not only for my king's family, but for my king himself, because he
Well, this-
certainly found himself in a nest of vipers.
This is the MO of the Sargavans. They come as your friends about 10 years or so before they're going to destroy you.
But
And they get themselves
Yeah.
implicated into positions of authority and as counselors and as politicians. They get themselves into those positions such that at the time that they choose to strike, they've got enough inside people. Gate Pass is a perfect example.
Yeah.
They got enough sympathizers or their own men into politician positions so that when they made their attack, they opened the gates for them. They swung them open and welcomed them.
The fall of Gate Pass as the opening salvo in this war was frankly deft indeed. We've welcomed many refugees from Gate Pass here, and hope that the future will bring more of them here. They have been staunch allies of us, and as you probably are aware, having been Gate Pass, you know that the dwarves of the Bandu and the independent-minded peoples of Gate Pass have always been allies. And
Well,
we have
is there
welcomed them here.
is there a section of the city that the people of Gate Pass are in? Could I visit them?
Well, I don't know that there's a specific section. We haven't grouped people like that, but it's possible. And he looks over at Lord Roger. He's like, "Can you alert some of the Gate Pass people that these guys are here and see if they'll be willing to talk?" And they'll be like, "Absolutely." And he goes out and does that. So yeah, he's like, "I'm certain that we could find some people. In fact, the most recent refugees we would handed that have come from Gate Pass, we can make them available to you."
the other
Thank you.
thing that Arendar would point out is that the Talons are kind of crazy.
Well, they're just corrupt.
Yeah.
They're
Well, they're scared and
100%.
corrupt, and yeah.
Yes. Crazy suggests that they're operating
Yeah.
without reason. They're operating with reason. They're just corrupt.
Yeah.
Not
And
all of
so-
them, especially the lower
so we've
levels.
got
Many
one.
of them don't know.
Yeah, we've got one that we trust on the inside that we can get information to.
That's good news. That's excellent news. We have heard, frankly, before weeks ago when the king's family was killed, we lauded the creation of the Talons. Our understanding was that the king and his court were choosing the best of the best from the constabulary to form this detective unit to try and get to the bottom of this terrible and terrifying crime. But it sounds like that's not the case.
Well, it looks like that, and it could be construed as that. However, all of the top level commanders they owe their allegiance to Sargava somehow, either through fear, intimidation, or payoffs. And all the people who are truly in charge of it, because all of the people who are truly in charge of the government entirely are Sargavan agents.
Not about all, but there's a significant amount.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't know if all, but we know multiple because one of the questions we asked the half orc with the Speak with Dead spell was, how many of the Talons were in there, and he said there were multiples.
So it is infested.
Well, I can't count. So I consider it all. I just kill them and you guys figure it out.
Sort of out. He seems really saddened by this. And you get the impression that, in the continue the talk of that, as you discuss, you talk about the things that you've seen and the problems and the Sargavan influence and all these kind of things. you get the impression that Gallo is, it's like he thought it was bad, but it's immeasurably worse. And you do get the idea that, still Gallo, even despite the imprisonment of his ambassador, despite the charge of treason, that Gallo still really is loyal to his king. Because when he talks about these kind of things, you get the impression that he's like he certainly hates the Sargavans. You get that immediately, and with that, I mean, that's something you have in common. He despises them, but he agrees with you that the Sargavans are spiders. They infiltrate. They turn brother against brother. This is their tactics. This is something they've used from time immemorial. The Chilaxians first, and now the Sargavans. But you feel like that he doesn't really blame Steppengard for his situation. It's like he's been manipulated. This is not my king that is being in. He's surrounded by
Right.
poison. Yeah.
It's kind of the same boat we're in.
Yeah.
It's not him that's the problem. It's the corruption around him that's the problem.
He says he goes, I'm certainly no no killer of messengers, so you needn't worry. But that is dire news indeed. I worry as to the state of the Bandu. If the Sargavans have polluted the mind and corrupted the advisor tier of King Steppengard to the extent that you describe, he sort of leans back. He's like, I wonder if this war is already lost.
It's not lost.
No.
He is things. He's like, we suspected that this was Sargava's aim eventually. And after Gate Pass fell, we knew that they would not stop there, even though they protested. We knew we knew that Shaladel in the plains was being accosted, and we knew that Sequin was on their, the Lyceum. Obviously, their Inquisitor clear, and they have a new. By the way, they have a new supreme leader. Old Coltung capitulated, and now the supreme leader of the Sargavans is Inquisitor Leska, is the name. Leska. Supreme Inquisitor Leska. And now the Inquisitors are largely in control of the Sargavan government. So the Lyceum obviously is something that cannot stand. They wish to destroy it. So
we just need some next steps.
Well, let me tell you what. The next step for tonight is enjoy yourselves. Enjoy my, the bounty of my table. You are friends and guests here, and I need to consult with my counselors to see what we will do with this information. At some point, and he turns to Poe. At some point, I would like to put your half orc to the question if you are amenable to that, but not tonight. You have traveled a great deal and you need rest. Perhaps in the next day or two.
It's been a week since we left the town, right?
Yeah, just a little over actually.
Because I think we can only talk to the dead once a week. So
right.
He goes, I would like to, if you are amenable to it, I would like to put some questions to this half orc of yours and find out what you need. Not that I don't trust you, but I have my own questions I want to ask him. And well, second,
I will provide a list of the things that we did ask.
Okay.
And the answers that we got, just so he can filter.
Doesn't duplicate.
Yeah.
Okay. And I need to talk not only to my counselors, but I need to see if we've heard any word from Dashgaban or Timor. I suspect that our problems are only just beginning here, but nevertheless, you are welcome. And thank you again for the return of my ambassador Ginnis and my friend, and bringing yourselves here safe, and for this news, although dire, it's good to have information. We've had almost zero information out of Brest for weeks, and it's good that we've finally be able to talk to somebody who's seen it up close. And with that, he sort of he goes, if you'll excuse me, I have to go meet with my counselors. Please continue to enjoy as much as you like. Lord Roger will see you to your rooms when you are complete.
Is he the one that's also going to direct me to the Gate Pass folk?
Yeah, so he's not here right now. He's going to come back and get you guys. But basically, he's the idea is that he'll set up soon. You want to interview. I mean, do
Not
you want to talk to
interview.
them in well, not interview, but do you want to talk to them in private,
No.
Well, to
or do
give
you?
you the
I can bring them
to,
here.
yeah, to give you the underlying thing, those people went to Gate Pass and to try to get our mother out.
Hmm.
They were going to bring her back to Sequin. That never happened, and it's been some time. So it's possible that they encountered problems, and knowing that this was a safe place, came here instead.
It's possible.
Right.
Didn't I think didn't Simeon tell you guys that your mother had been located and they just hadn't gotten her out yet? Right.
Correct, but
Okay.
Right.
yeah, correct. But they also might have problems getting back to Sequin with all the other stuff that's gone on, the
Right.
changes that have happened. So, but that and just to see that the newest batch of refugees are okay, they're healthy, they're doing all right, whatever.
Okay. So yeah, after Duke Gallo and some of his guys leave, he mentions I have to go talk to my counselors. There's a lot of things. You've given us a lot of information, a lot of things to consider. Um and only about more ale and stuff like that is brought and more food if you need it. But eventually about 45 minutes later, you see Lord Roger again show up and he's got four people with him. One is a dwarf. One is obviously a very tall, slim Mwangi, and two are humans, a man and a woman, and they seem like they know each other quite well. Maybe not sure if it's man and wife, but certainly they know each other well. And he brings them over, and you can see Lord Roger actually escorts them over. You don't recognize any of them specifically. None of them are familiar to you. They're not among you don't recognize any friends here. Lord Roger comes over and says, "Gentlemen, I just want to present you with some of the people that have recently come to Gallowfend from Gate Pass. This," and he points to the dwarf, "is Gidrak Hillborn. He was a resident of Gate Pass for many years. This is Ozoma Ikera." And he points to this tall, skinny Mwangi. He's obviously of the Mwangi expanse, but lived in Gate Pass for many years. And this is Altus Groblum and Gideon Denberg, native-born gate passers. Please join us. And he gives everybody. They all sit down and avail themselves of things. They look to be on first glance. They all look to be in reasonable health. None of them have any obvious wounds, although the dwarf has some scars that those of you who are in the martial in the martial classes would recognize as fighting scars. And they sort of sit down, they get drinks, and they're like, "Yeah, we're from Gate Pass. How can we help?"
Do I recognize any of the names?
None of the names, although they seem to be typical names. Gate Pass was a very for this region was a very cosmopolitan place, right?
Right, but they're
A
not
lot.
any of the people that we know that were Sargovan sympathizers.
No, not that you know. No, in
Okay.
fact, none of them.
Well, we don't know at all.
The two humans, Altus and Gideon, were essentially said to be lifelong residents of Gate Pass.
Right.
But I mean, they're humans, so I mean, they don't look Sargovan. They look Gate Passian from a
Okay.
physical standpoint.
Mhm. Hmm.
So how
I'll
can we
ask
help? Yeah.
I'll ask the Mwangi in his language.
Okay.
What news of Gate Pass?
So he smiles. He's like, "It has been," and he says in this. He responds in the same language. He says, "It has been a while since I've heard the tongue of my home spoken so well." But then he switches to common and says, "So Gate Pass, it is, uh, it is not great in Gate Pass." He says, uh, basically the news he brings is the Sargovans have completely dominated the council, which is still in place as a puppet sort of figurine, but there's a whole cadre of Sargovan political officers they refer to themselves as that basically dominates the council. Nothing the council does nothing that the Sargovans don't previously approve, and essentially the town is under martial law. There's a lot of Sargovan and a few Chilaxian soldiers that are on sort of garrison duty, and they're garrisoning the town. They've captured a lot of the arcane mages. And essentially, we're not sure where they've been taken. They might be imprisoned in Gate Pass, but it's like if you were an arcane mage or somebody accused you of being an arcane mage, of being able to do arcane spells, you just sort of disappeared one night and no one ever really saw you again. No one who's been taken into custody, no arcane mage who's been taken into custody by the Sargavans has ever been released. So we don't know if they are still in Gate Pass, if they're being summarily executed, or what. But certainly, there's far fewer mages on the ground than there used to be. The gates are manned by Sargavans, and anyone without pre-approval is kept within the city. You can't exit the city unless you have Sargavan approval by the Sargavan garrison, the military. And so most people are just sort of stuck. There's a fair amount of smuggling going on, but it's very difficult. He will say one of the things that Gidrak and I were doing was we were smuggling in food, medicine, supplies, smuggling out people who were in danger. And so it got too hot for us. We got snitched on. And we got word that the Sargavans were looking for us to put us under arrest, and we made it, and we escaped and came here. The word was pretty clear that if you were going to try and escape from Gate Pass, coming to Gallowfend was a good place to go. It used to be that Sequin was taking in refugees, but the latest we've heard is that that Sequin is turning away people, refugees to that town. Plus, it's just so much farther, and a lot of the fighting going on is in the areas that people escaping to Sequin would have to go through to get to Sequin. So there's not a lot of refugees headed for Sequin anymore. Certainly not from Gate Pass, maybe from other areas, but not from Gate Pass.
Is there any news from the Elf Quarter?
We've heard from the elves, and obviously news and information is very tightly controlled, but we have heard that the elves have made some inroads, especially the armies of Lord Shaladel, the cavalry, have been making some very substantive inroads on the Sargavan forces in the north. There was a lot of rumors, which I've got confirmed here, that those guys that are north of the Bandu Hills are waiting for their reinforcements. And my guess is that those reinforcements are in the party of, I mean, they're 5 Corps. It's the Southern Army.
He was
No, I
talking
mean-
about the elf
I mean
quarter
that-
inside the
that-
Gate Pass.
Yeah, the Elf Quarter in Gate Pass.
Where we're
Oh,
from.
they were from, so they'll tell you that they were from the sort of the other side of the city. And the two people will pipe up that they were sort of mid-say. They did not live in the elf quarter. There's no elves among these 4 people.
Right.
But they don't know anything about it.
Not really. I mean, the other two seem much less vocal than the Mwangi, because, well, you would talk to the Mwangi first, but basically they corroborate what he was saying. They were merchants, specifically. He was a butcher and she was an ale maker, and the reality of their situation was that their normal lines of supply from outside of Gate Pass were cut off. And so none of their normal supply. So, their supplies dwindled and dwindled and dwindled, and finally there was nothing left to sell. They started to engage with the smugglers to try and bring some things to the people, but prices were going through the roof. And they will say, look, we tried to keep prices and make sure that people got fed, but there was a lot of people who were much better supplied than we were, and who were jacking up the prices and raking the cash. There was talk that the Sargavans were making deals with certain merchants to allow stuff in for a kickback. Basically, they were getting kickbacks on that kind of stuff. But we never made any deals with the Sargavans, and so we were not part of that. We were never party to that. In fact, one of the reasons that we had to escape, and we paid a smuggler to get us out. They didn't come together, but they paid a smuggler to get them out with what little money they had left. And the reason they did that was because they had been vocally anti-Sargavin at the beginning of the attacks. They never have liked the Sargavins and never liked doing business with them. And suddenly had been approached by Sargavins, asked a bunch of questions, that kind of stuff. And they felt that it was becoming increasingly dangerous for them. Like the Sargavins they, they were worried that their competitors, even though that they were working with the Sargava, or they suspected they were working with Sargavans because they had more supplies, they were selling at higher prices, and we criticized, the selling of things for higher prices because of the war footing, and we suspect that they snitched us out to the Sargavans to get us in trouble, and that the Sargavans were in the process of investigating, and that we felt that it was the better part of the better part of valor would be to escape. So we took what little savings we had left, paid a smuggler to get us out, and that's how we got here.
Okay. Hmm.
Now, the dwarf will tell you that he would say, "Look, I was." He would say, "Look, it's not as much of a resistance as we might have liked, but there are still people in Gate Pass who want to shrug off the Sargavin control, and so." As you talk to him, the more information you get out of him is it wasn't like armed resistance, it was more like malicious compliance, right? So there was like coordinated attacks on storehouses, right? But the reality was the more he talks, the more you get the impression that the only people he was really hurting all that much were his fellow gate passers. And it was not purposeful, but it was like sabotage and vandalism and things of that nature to try and, sort of get the Sargavins goat. But the Sargavins controlled the city, so it wasn't really hurting them all that much.
Uh,
But that's basically the story. So the one guy, the Mwangi, was a smuggler. And found that the police were the Sargavins were getting too close and decided to make his escape. The dwarf was part of some sort of half-assed resistance movement that conducted primarily sort of sabotage and vandalism, but not very much of it, not very effective of it, and largely, not you just it didn't do much. And the other two were merchants who refused to either raise prices as much as they ought to, or truck with the Sargavins, and subsequently what they think is their competitors sort of ratted them out as anti-Sargavin activists, and it was only a matter of time before they too might disappear, and so
yeah.
they decided to make their escape.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really all the, would you have questions still?
Yeah, I was going to ask if we give them a list of just our good friends, our mom, or anyone that we associated with. Can you check and see if any of these people from Gate Pass are here?
So there's only probably 20 or 25 people from Gate Pass here. There's probably because from the beginning, it was very difficult to get out, and most of the people that got out early went in this either to the Mwangi or to the north towards like Sequin and some of the
Sequin.
farmsteads. There was
Okay.
a lot of Gate Pass people went north and then east, so that they got behind essentially the cavalry, the Lord Shaladale's cavalry, and have sort of been making their way in various manners. Some of those people who went as far as the hills have now been like going to, integrating themselves into let me see, this is probably a better one. Integrating themselves into sort of these hill areas over here. You remember this was the halfling
Mhm.
village, and there's a number of them all along this way. Now the Sargavins are still exacting tribute from them, but a lot of people sort of went sort of out from Gate Pass into the northwest because it was safer. There were farmsteads, there were little villages, that kind of thing. Some people went into the fire forest and the Kavalands, and nobody's seen them again. A lot of people went into the Mwangi and used the river to get out, and there's been talk that they've joined with them. If you ask them about some names of people, nobody really knows any names. They don't know your mom, but dwarf does know a couple of people that were you guys were sort of like in an elvish street gang of sorts, if I recall correctly.
I was.
Yeah. So
Yeah, Wraith was.
you mentioned a couple of elvish guys that were sort of in your crew, and he does remember one of them and says basically, yeah, I know that guy. He used to, he was working with us in a couple of ways and sort of, working against the Sargavans, in a variety of ways. So part of this sort of like nascent rebellion kind of thing. But nothing he's like, I don't really know the guy. I only knew of him and sort of, I'd maybe met him once, a while back. But yeah, he was sort of part of our sort of attached to our crew a little bit. So he's still and he goes, as far as I know, he's still alive. But that's all the people they know.
Wow.
Hold that thought for a second. I'll be right back.
Eric's not there anymore, is he? No. That's what we do. How you doing, Dougie? Oh, I thought he was on Zoom.
I think he's on Zoom. I think he's just on,
He's just on.
well, it's fine.
Hey, Eric, you're back. And you're on mute, by the way.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So you made the mention about the, so we're bringing along our own portable dead guy library.
Yes, sir.
So our Friday night crew here, for the longest time, we've always had the thing where we've always carried around a bag of holding, which is a head bag. So any important person or important thing we kill, we just got to set off and throw in the bag. So it became like a running joke that we all had a head bag. So this party's just upped at one, and instead of a head bag, we've got a body bag.
That's awesome. I must applaud. I can only applaud the practicable ingenuity. This is great, actually. And it's also, I'm a lawful good guy in wartime, so you gotta sometimes.
Yep. Remember, it's a lawful evil half orc. So lawful
Yeah.
evil.
Anyway, it's all good. It's all good.
It's not murder if they're lawful evil.
Pretty much, yeah.
Or if you're locked in your stateroom. Hey, Doug.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, Doug, how you doing?
How's it going,
All right.
Doug?
So, other questions for the refugees?
Nope.
Okay. Well, they're glad to see people from Gate Pass, and they're certainly appreciative. You get the impression that they're very appreciative of the dwarves here for taking them in.
Yeah.
It's Gate Pass is in a sort of a weird spot, and it's difficult to get to places that of safety, especially with the Sargavans having moved so expeditiously to various places. But they felt that all of them to a person basically said, we were very fortunate, very lucky to be able to get here, before we were found out.
Okay.
So the next, so I'm assuming,
just gonna take advantage of their hospitality and wait till the next day.
Okay, so the next morning, it's relatively early, and that Lord Roger shows up and basically says, the Duke has asked me to bring you to his council chambers. He has some additional questions, and there's been a substantive change in there's been some occurrences that have happened that he wants to make you aware of, and so. He asks you to come with him to the council.
Okay, if he says he's joined the Sargavans, I'm going to be very upset.
Yeah, we've decided to go ahead and give in.
We decided the odds work for us, so
yep.
So we're turning you guys in.
So basically, he takes you to a different place, not to the Great Hall or anything, but to a much smaller chamber, still pretty big, made of stone, dark, not light in the same way, and basically says, We've had, he welcomes you come in and sort of, the moment the door opens, he waves you in, kind of like over to this big table, and you can see that there, the Duke's there, some guys that were at the feast the night before, and a couple of guys you haven't seen, including Captain Heritage is there, and Heritage nods to you as you guys come in, and you can see that there are, on the table as you get closer, you can see there's a big map, and on the, on the table of a regional map to look at, and on the, there's also various documents and that kind of thing. And so he waves you guys over and basically says, thank you for coming and joining us. We have much to discuss, but
Hey, Mike. Okay, forget it. You saw it.
the situation the situation has changed, and as much as I hate to do it, I need to ask of you a favor. Even though you've done so much for me already, and I have no right to ask it. I find myself without resources in a time of need.
Does it involve murdering people or Sargovans? Because
Almost certainly.
oh well, heck yeah, we're on that.
So basically, he pushes a large document scroll across the thing. It's written in Dwarvish. Anybody read Dwarvish?
I don't.
Poe does.
I bet Poe does, and so does
Yeah, Poe does.
so does Vondrum.
All right. So as you guys look at the thing, you can see that this document, once they turn around, it's obviously
Oh, I do too.
a document in Dwarvish from King Steppengard. And there's a fair amount of whatever counts as flowery language in Dwarvish, sort of aristocratic language. But the end result is basically King Steppengard does a couple of things in this document. He basically reaffirms, and the Duke Gallo goes, this was brought by messenger early this morning. He said King Steppengard reaffirms that Duke Gallo and any who align with him are traitors to the king and traitors to the land, and are for their lands, titles, and castles, along with any of their riches, are now forfeit. To whom it's weirdly written, it says are now forfeit to whomever can take them. So it's almost like he's been sort of asking,
Given Sargovan
won't someone rid me of this troublesome priest, right? Who will rid me of this troublesome priest? So yeah, he's basically like their lands are forfeit. It's Duke Gallo is specifically called out, and any who will ally with him. It then says that the army of the king has been mustered and will be advancing upon Gallowfend in order to accept the Duke's surrender, so that he may be taken into custody and face lawful and his lawful charge in the court of the king. So basically, he says, essentially, they're coming here to fight. The king is sending an army to fight us. He says, I don't have much information about that now, but he goes, I do know the king's armies. I was once in the king's army, so I know how the Duke fights. I know what he'll do, and he will fight us on the plains on the other side of the Elite Gap. He will try to get us to capitulate and surrender rather than destroy us and destroy Gallowfend. This fortress and the people within it are too valuable to the king for him to destroy it. He will fight us on the plains out here. But according to this, he's on the way. As far as I can tell, Steppengard can muster perhaps 8,000 soldiers, which is roughly equal to what we can do. I have already sent new messengers to Lord Dashgaban and Lady Timor, reiterating my request for aid and showing them this document. My worry is that this document will accomplish what it's intended to do, which is forestall them from allying with me. However, the situation has changed. Yesterday, I did not have the evidence that you have brought me, nor did I have any real evidence that the Sargovans are already making inroads under the Elite Gap and have already completely and utterly corrupted the king's court. So here's what I'd like to do. So he goes into a couple of things. He's like, look, The reality is Steppengard has an army of about 8,000. And he's going to. There's no other way. He's not going to go around. He's going to attack us on those plains up there on the other side of the Elite Gap. It's the only really way. Now, reality is, I have nearly as many men, and I'm on the defense. So I don't believe that unless Steppengard has significant Sargavan aid, that he can defeat me on my own turf. You know the old standby. You need, if you want to attack somebody, you need 3 times the as large a force as the defenders to siege an entrenched foe. And if honestly, Steppengard can't. He doesn't have that many soldiers, even with Lord Is, even with his allies. Magadan either. The problem is the Sargavans. The only thing holding them back is that the mountain passes haven't thawed yet. If Steppengard decides to come here and lay siege, or even if he tries a frontal assault, he's not going to win. But what he will do is he'll weaken my defenses. He'll make it easier for the Sargavans to get in. And the last count that I had, the Sargavans have nearly 30,000 soldiers at the bottom of the Elite Pass. So he's on his way, and we need to resolve it as quickly as possible. My commanders suggest that we face the king's forces in open battle. He sort of gestures around. My commanders say that we need to face them on the plains. If we can win a decisive victory against him in open battle, we can force the king to surrender. Then I can escort him back to the capital, summon the other nobles, and convince them that we have to unite and defend ourselves against the Sargavans.
Especially if you can capture him, you can get him away from whatever magical influence that he's under.
That would be an added benefit. Steppengard's forces will be here in a little more than a week. After that, I think we may have 2 weeks, 3 at most, before the Sargavans can breach the Elite Gap. That should be enough time. If all things go well, that should be enough time for me to convince the council and get the necessary reinforcements. Even if I lose up to a quarter, he goes, now we start to talk about cold equations. I can lose up to a quarter of my guys in the defeat of Steppengard. With the aid of the rest of the kingdom, I can hold the gap against any force, 30,000 or more. But if we lose against the king, I suspect whoever's tricked him into thinking I'm responsible for the assassinations will also trick him into thinking that he can leave the gap undefended. So I can't risk losing this fight. Steppengard has the aid of units from 3 other nobles right now: Lord Is, Lady Naaman, and Lord Magadan. And his army is about equal to mine. Even though I like to think my soldiers are the best in the land, I don't think there's any way we can fight the king's army and not suffer losses. This is where you come in. I need to convince my neighbors, Lord Dashgaban and Lady Timor, to join forces with me. I sent messengers requesting aid. I've sent messengers with the material that we've learned. But I think both of them agree with me. But that said, they're not prepared to fight their own king just because I asked them to. I need more proof. Some of which you have brought to me. Some of which can be demonstrated by the fact that Sargava is sitting at the bottom of the Elite Gap. The fact is, we don't have much time to find it. Just across, you can see the Elite Gap. The Sargavans are going to have to come that way, and if they really are planning to attack the Bandu Hills en masse, as I suspect they do, they'll have to silence the watch posts that I maintain along the pass. So between here and the south, I have a series of watch posts. Cunningly hidden, well supplied. What I need you to go down to those watch posts, ride up the pass, check on the outposts, and look for signs of Sargavan activity. See if they've already sent people that have breached the gap. Those men in those outposts would not have gotten news of what happens here, nor are they probably clued in as to what's happening in Bresk. So they might not even have sent word, even if they'd seen a few Sargavan scouts. I need you guys to ride fast and hard. I'll provide horses, and I'll provide wands of cure light wounds to use on them so that you can ride as fast as possible. I need you to ride to each of these things, each of my outposts, check them out, and see if we're lucky, we'll find that the Sargavans have slipped up. I need you to bring back a couple of my forward lookouts because Timur and Dashgaban will want to talk to them personally. You guys aren't from around here, so you don't know how much we worry about setting off another civil war like we had a couple of generations ago. So before they'll come to my aid, they need to see proof with their own eyes. If you guys can, if there are Sargovans, I want you to get some of my guys, bring them back. If they've seen Sargovans, I want you to bring them back here so they can tell Timur and Dashgaban about this. If you find Sargovans, I want you to bring them back so we can parade them in front of Timur and Dashgaban and get them to help.
Do they have to be alive?
They would. Well, I don't know. That's a good question. So he'll be the first to me. He says, "Look, my people do not have. I don't have any necromancers here.
Neither do we.
That's why I was going to presume
Well,
on
we've got a
Poe
cleric.
to help. Lady Timur, on the other hand, is a mage of note and knows and understands some of those arcane magics that deal with the dead. I'm sure of it. It's very possible that she would have people on her staff or herself specifically, that might be able to extract information from deceased Sargovans. So when you say, do they need to be alive?
Would help, but
Possibly not. Yeah.
Would help, but they don't absolutely.
What do we call it? A nice to have?
Okay.
So maybe.
All right, let's go.
What do you think? You can do it?
Yes, we got it.
All right. So what he does is basically he says, look, all right, what I'm also going to show you is how if those outposts are intact, you talk to my guys, let me know, find out if they've seen any Sargovans, come back here as fast as you can. With the cure light wounds and pushing these ponies hard, yeah, you guys can get back, you can there and back hopefully by late night tomorrow.
Okay.
But you're gonna have to use them. He's like, I'll give you the wands. Use them on the ponies. Watch out for crevices. A lot of times it's with now that it's the spring, we're moving towards the spring thaw. Some of the ice sheets are going to be breaking up, so be careful when you travel. Ice sheets and stuff like that can sink, can collapse. I don't want any of you guys injured. But use the cure light wounds on the horses to push them beyond their capabilities, so you don't have to rest. If you find some of my guys that have seen Sargovans, bring them back with you. If you find Sargovans, capture them and bring them back with you. Here's a map of what the outposts themselves look like. Oh wait, I actually have to show you it. The problem is. So this is an Elite Gap outpost. This is a standard thing. They're usually on hills, but the outside, they're made of stone, but the outsides are usually disguised to look like more hill. They contain this E area is usually the common area. There's a hallway, but you can see in this F area, this is defense of the outpost. So these are murder holes. So and you can see that
Self-defense holes.
Self-defense holes. Sorry,
Yes.
They're
Can't use the M word.
They're justifiable homicide holes.
Those are castle doctrine holes.
Yeah, there you go. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm writing down justifiable homicide holes. I may have to put that on a shirt. So there's the justifiable homicide holes, and then there's also, the door inside, it has a portcullis, which, my guys are going to be closed. I will provide you with documentation and badges that show that you're working for me. Then you have the interior hallway, the barracks, and usually the commander or the chaplain's quarters. It's not very simple. These stairways lead up to the roof. Those roofs are also camouflaged, but typically they'll have a couple of ballistas up top. Okay, that's what they look like.
So as an aside to all this, has the group that was sent up to check out what we already found, have they reported back yet?
They have not reported back yet.
But they're expected today, right?
Either today or tomorrow, more likely tomorrow.
Okay. Because they'll have evidence of Sargovans with with supplies much farther north.
Right, much
That's
closer.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll arrive tomorrow Now, Heritage just talked about that. Yeah, it's unlikely we'll see them today, probably tomorrow. But I have to check. I have to check the outposts.
Yeah, we're all good with the outpost.
All right, you guys are good to do that.
Yep, we got it.
Yep.
All right. He's like, if you guys need any equipment, requisition it from him. That's my quartermaster. And he points to a
Can
dwarf
we-
over there. The guy's like, hello.
Les, can we sell equipment here? Is this big enough where we could sell magic items and?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
The vibe you get from this place is that while it's much smaller than the capital, it's very prosperous. And
Except
especially
for Tunnel Homes.
except for Tunnel Homes. Well, Tunnel Homes doesn't have one here, but it's very prosperous, especially when you consider how poor the terrain is here. There's not a lot of farms here, but these people are very prosperous. They do, and you chalk it up to, that they're merchants. I mean, you saw a lot of stores and merchants and various kinds of things. This is very much a commercial city.
Okay. Because I've got a bunch of stuff that we've been amassing for the last probably year in game time.
Okay.
that
Yeah,
I'm
you could
going
sell
to
that stuff. You want to divide it
sell
up
that
and
here,
split it up?
I'm going to sell all the stuff that's not valuable to us or we can't use.
Okay.
What do I get book value?
Here you will get 2/3 of book value, 66%.
66. Okay.
Provided condition is adequate.
Right. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll be able to. I'm not going to do that during game time. I'll do that.
Okay. But yeah,
after.
see, absolutely is like, yes, we'll provide you. In fact, he points out his quartermaster. He says, deal with my quartermaster. If there's any equipment you need, he'll make sure that you have fresh horses, and the two wands to keep the horses alive, plus enough food and drink for 2 days. And if there's other equipment that you require of a mundane nature, he will provide it. If there's something specific that you need, let me know and we'll see what we can get.
So that's going to happen in
Okay.
game time right now, but I'm not going to get this done until this week. And
Gotcha. Okay, that's fine.
so we'll do it after the fact, but us buying stuff and selling stuff would be happening right now.
Got
We
it.
just don't know what's going to happen yet since I
Well,
haven't.
you're gonna be if everything works out okay, you guys will be back late tomorrow night. So
Right.
about 40 hours from now is the plan. That
Right.
you guys are gonna work those horses so hard that you have to use
Mm.
cure light wounds on them to get through and get to each of the things.
Okay.
All right. So is there other equipment that you want besides food, water, horses, more arrows for Wraith,
Yeah, that's it. And then we roll out.
and the 2 cure light wounds? So the weather is going to remain cold all day today, according to the divinator, the divinations guys.
The weather
Uh,
guy.
Is he
The
better
weather
than our
guy.
weather guys?
Can we
Huh?
trust them as much as we trust our other guys?
Yeah, they're like, could be cold.
Yeah.
He looks outside. I think it's going to rain.
20% accurate at best.
Yeah. Doppler window.
According. All right,
Okay.
so so the weather's cold enough where you can actually go across the Nasham River. It's frozen, so you can actually take the horses across it. But yeah, if you guys don't need any other specific equipment, then he's like, if you can go as quickly as possible, that would be great.
We're out of here.
Okay. So these are solid horses, but the terrain is tough. Typically, you're making about what you would consider to be about 4 miles an hour. What the cure lights are for is because usually after 8 hours of going with a horse, you'd have to have them 8 hours of rest. Or they start to become damaged. What you're doing is you're pushing them past their rest periods. You're damaging the horses, and thereby you're using the cure light wounds to sort of bring them back up. It's sort of a rest abeyance kind of strategy.
Okay.
You get the impression that these people here have used this strategy before. And it doesn't take you long. It's only a couple hours to the first outpost. You ride up and you have documentation and badges. You actually have badges from
We don't
Duke
need
Gallo.
no stinking badges.
Well, sort of cloak badges that indicate that you're part of, Gallo's. It's not livery, but you're part of Gallo's sort of military retinue. And so you guys are welcomed. They see you. As you approach, you see that they are pretty cunningly concealed. They're at the tops of the pass, so they look down into the pass. but they're also sort of they're stone buildings, but the earth is sort of built up around them, so they look like these weirdly shaped hills. There's trees out front and things like that, and cunningly done snow mounds and stuff like that that block the roof. But you can see, as you approach and you look closer, you can see, oh yeah, there's a ballista right there. They've got a couple of snow mounds that blocks the thing, but they can see down into the thing. So they look really prepared. You guys approach them and you're welcomed in. They're like, what news from the Fend? That kind of thing. And you're like, we can't hang with you guys. But each one of these things has 8 soldiers and either a chaplain or a sergeant, basically. So they welcome you in. They don't have much in the way of supplies, but they offer what have. They ask about news. And you ask them, have you seen any Sargovans? And they're like, Sargovans this far north? No, we haven't seen anybody, that kind of stuff. And that's largely the story you get. You continue on, and this goes on similarly for 5 outposts. They're all about 2 or 3 hours away from each other. So it's once you get to the 5th one, it's pretty much the day is over. The horses are I mean, you're curing them as you go, but the horses are kind of like they're beat up, they're slowing, that kind of thing, and you don't you're slowing down, but you're still moving out. I want everybody on a horse to give me a quick survival skill check. So that would be everybody in the party.
Doesn't sound like much of a party.
Survival skill.
The adventuring party, the murder party, the justifiable homicide party.
Thank you.
2019, excellent. Wraith, that's your 19.
Yes.
Okay. Titus 19.
So it's survival, not riding?
It's survival.
Okay.
No.
Vondi?
Coming.
And
Aye.
9,
my
and
horse.
Arendar, a natural 1. All right. So what that indicates, and not making this segment, is basically your horse at some point found like a sinkhole or a
Pothole.
divot or something. Yeah, pothole basically covered by the snow that you missed. So now those of you who missed, so this would be Vondram and Arendar, I need each of you to make a reflex save.
Yeah.
All right, 24, okay. Reflex 28, okay. All right, so you managed to avoid damaging either the horse or or yourselves, and you weren't thrown from the horse. But after each one of these incidents, Arendar, both you and Vondram were like, "Boy, that was a close one. That could have been much worse." Had that gone awry. But other than that, everybody seems to have. Did we lose somebody?
We lost Don. Doug.
Oh, Doug. Okay.
Yeah, Doug.
All right, no big loss. So random encounter bottom. As you approach the 6th and southernmost outpost, I don't know, you get a weird feeling about this one. It's nighttime, so it's dark. But I don't know, but you can see off in the distance some what looks to be a line along the pathway to get up to it. This one's less hidden. So you see a couple of things that strike you as strange.
Mhm.
So the first thing you see is that as you guys are moving around there, and I apologize for the lack of snow on this outpost in particular is on the top of a fairly tall hill, 100 feet up. And there's like a little switchback path that you can see that sort of goes up and around these hills. So it's kind of a very sort of serpentine way to get up to this thing. The other thing, the most noticeable thing that you see, especially since it's nighttime and these guys are supposed to be relatively secret, is the fact that there are a whole bunch of large campfires along the northern line, giving off a ton of light. Now, at all of the other ones, including the last one, which you did see in the evening, it's about midnight now. The last one did not have fires of this kind. In fact, it seemed like
the whole point
the opposite of what it should be doing. But other than that, you don't see anything going on, up at the, up on the thing.
The come hither.
If we don't see all those things up top, then we're gonna approach.
What thing's up top?
That's what I
The
said.
one, yeah.
All right. So how do you go about the approach? Are you just gonna like gallop up the up the path?
How do we approach all the rest of them? Actually, this one, if we think something's off, then yeah, we're not gonna just gallop up.
Well, it's weird because of all the fires. And there's like it's like 10 different fires, and they're big fires. These squares are 20 feet square. So those fires are big sort of bonfires, and they're all in a line next to the end of the path, sort of the last part of the path.
I say we tie the horses off at a tree way down at the bottom before we get in sight. My thought would be to go about halfway up together and then send Wraith up the last half by himself to see what he can see.
Give me a survival check.
Ooh,
What
Oh,
is
you
this?
know that.
Anybody who thinks they would be good at it. The fires they look like
Oh,
big
that.
logs. Like just big piles of logs. It looks like a lot of trees died for these fires.
So it's not like mounds of corpses being burned.
No, it doesn't look like corpses. It looks
Okay.
like wood. Yeah, it's not mounds of corpses as far as you can tell.
they're tree
Although-
corpses.
They're corpses of trees. Although, frankly, these fires, at least a couple of them, would be big enough
Yeah.
and substantive enough to burn a corpse. I mean, they're not pyres in the same sense. They're not constructed like a funeral pyre would be. But they're
We're
big
gonna be when
fires.
we're done.
It might be a justifiable homicide pyre.
Yes.
But they don't look like. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's mounds of bodies. There's you don't see anything like that. For Mike, Arendar rolled a 22 survival check. Knowing what you know and having been inside some of the other outposts, those rooftops are designed for a couple of things. One, defense, but also to as lookout stations, right? Remember, these are lookout stations. So you know, frankly, although it's night, anybody with dark vision would probably be able to see you on approach. Or in the infrared. I mean, it might be
I've got dark vision, so
huh?
I've got dark vision, so
Yeah,
Yeah.
but so do dwarves, which is what we think are in there.
Yeah, it's dwarves. It's almost the ones you've been before with the gallows the gallows guys that you've run into in the other outposts have all been either dwarves or men.
right. And the dwarves don't need light.
Right.
Well, I mean, for 60 feet, you can't really use dark vision for distance. So I-
Yeah, exactly.
True, but you'll get within 60 feet. Yeah, so
That's
It ain't
3
nothing to
squares
see,
away.
though. That's
yeah, it would probably be 3 squares, so something like this a little bit.
That's the extent of dark vision.
Yeah, that would be about. Let me see if I can.
Well, it's not centered, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
centered very well, but yeah, I mean that would be.
Well, and there would be extended vision along this line because of the fires.
So this wall right here,
Mhm.
is that climbable?
Yeah, I mean, they're all sort of climbable.
It's not gonna be easy, but it's doable, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily have to take a path, but it's about, you can see the elevation sort of is in like 20-foot increments. So those cliffs are like 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet high. Those edges.
I'm thinking we come up along the left side where there's more trees, not on the path. And get up to the build, like right up to the building by climbing up, and then we just kind of inch our way around to the front door. So unless they're like peering over and looking, over the top, they wouldn't see us coming around to the front door.
Those of you with dark vision, give me a perception check.
Now that's a skill I've got.
Me too, but when you roll a 1, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Only rolled a 5, so
Hmm.
Ooh, Titus.
Titus is all over it.
Oh no, are you human? Do you have perception
No.
or do you have
Plus,
dark vision? I think you're the only person that doesn't.
Yeah,
I
that was
don't
it.
have. Hold on. Is this a tower up there?
Yeah, well, kind of. It's more like a blockhouse, right? So it's only 1 story tall.
Yeah.
But there's crenellations on the roof, and the roof is open, right? It's a flat, open roof. So you've been in these buildings and the other places you've actually come in, talked to the guys, and you know that there's 2 sets of stairs that go up to the roof. That's where, and they switch out who's who's on Overwatch, that kind of thing. There's
Okay.
also on those roofs, you'll remember, is that there is some sort of thing, and they had barrels of these iron filings, these sharp iron filings that they had up there. There's some sort of machine up there that dumps hot iron filings into the entryway. So if you go back to the let me go back to the let me take you back to the inside view. So you see this area right here?
Yeah.
So here's the door, and then there's a portcullis there. But this area here has justifiable homicide holes in the ceiling. And there's some sort of there's some sort of machine that they have up on the top. And you didn't get really a good chance to look at it because you guys were in a hurry. But they dump these shards of metal into the machine. The machine magically heats them up, and then they dump those, and the holes allow they get red hot, and they're sharp pieces of metal, and they fall through the holes on anybody who's in there that's trapped in there. That's sort of like gate defense. But that's on the roof as well. So these buildings are not huge, but they are pretty well defended, and rightly so. I mean, they're outposts, right?
Question for you. Les, how tall?
The crenellation on the roof starts at about 17, 18 feet. And there's
That's
crenellations which go up about another 3 or 4 feet. But your guess is that if you were on the floor, you would probably be about 18 feet off the ground on the
okay.
roof. But
That's
there's
fine.
like crenellations that come up about 3 or 4 feet.
Okay. I can easily get up there very, very easily, and land on the roof.
And take a rope with you?
Of course. Now, that's easy. But I can do this in daylight or at nighttime. Which one should I do?
Well, it's nighttime now. It's just a little bit after midnight.
All right, great. Can I Les, can I creep among the trees? And when I get within, say, I don't know, what's my my movement rate just increased?
Your stealth?
Well, my stealth, but Les, here's my plan. At 8th level, I gained wind jump. So I'm gonna
Wind
just
jump?
I'm gonna just jump over the wall and land on top, and I can throw down some ropes. I can punch guards, throw down ropes, raise hell, or be as quiet as I can. If you think this is something that you as DM allow me to do.
Oh yeah, wind jump. So this is a
Mhm.
supernatural power. A monk can use a key power to spend 1 point from his pool as a move action to grant himself a fly speed with perfect maneuverability equal to his base land speed. He must end his movement each round on solid ground or some other surface that can support his weight, or fall as normal. Once activated, it lasts for 1 minute. A monk must be at least 8th level or higher to do this. So yeah, I guess you could. It gives you
So-
a fly speed equal to your base land speed, and monks always move fast anyway. So
So
yeah,
he
he
can-
basically would like fly up there like some crouching tiger, hidden dragon bullshit.
I was gonna say, if he could take 2 ropes up with him that are already tied like a lasso, then once you immediately jump to the top, you can just put that over.
Mhm.
How big are the?
Actually, Poe's got something too that can help with this. He just gained something called dimensional hop,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
Nice.
it's a teleport.
it's
It's limited though.
5-foot
I can
teleport.
only do 80 feet, and if I take multiple people, it is divided. But you said it's only like 12 feet or something like that, up to that, or 15?
It's about 18 feet, yeah, to the
So
to the thing.
20, 20, 40, 60. So I could probably grab 4 people and teleport. If I was right next to that wall, I could teleport to the top of the wall with 4 people.
Yeah.
That's even faster.
The
Yeah,
short
well,
dwarf would sure benefit to 12.
So yeah, he could jump. So Ono can jump on his own.
Right.
If you can grab the rest of us,
Yeah, well, Valky can fly too. I think. Doesn't she usually do fly?
Valky's in the
Yeah.
wrong campaign.
Yeah,
This
that's
is Vondrum.
Valky's in another world, far, far away.
Oh,
Yes.
right,
Vondrum's the
right.
chubby 12. I mean, I've got a 6 climb, so
That's right.
maybe
I
I'll
forget.
make it.
All right. So Titus, with your 33 perception, you notice something a little disconcerting. The first thing you do, and most of the rest of you do not, don't hear it, but Titus, you're sort of watching the thing, and you hear a sort of flapping noise take place. And off of the roof lifts off what looks to be some sort of dragon-like creature. Lifts off the roof and begins flying overhead. This is what it looks like. Oh, that's not that great, but it's like there's a dragon-like creature, and there's a guy in a saddle with a long lance sort of flying around overhead. They
What the
take
hell?
off and they head out to the east. So they're not directly headed towards you, but you can see the guy banking and curving in the thing.
I let everyone else know.
yeah.
Well,
So you can
where have we gotten so far? We're
Where-
not
yeah,
on the
where-
map.
I'm assuming that you're well, it's up to you, but I'm assuming at least somewhere around the bottom.
Okay.
The left-hand side of the bottom, because we were talking about going up the trees for cover.
Yeah, using the
Yeah.
trees for cover. So like in this area, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'll get your characters and put on. Did you guys ever? Oh, there's no way you got a chance. So I'm gonna get your characters from the start page. So put your new hit points and everything on them.
But did we level up? And I forgot.
Level to 8.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
I forgot to. Don't feel alone.
Thank you, Chuck.
Oh,
You're
I did.
welcome.
I think I leveled before I went to bed that night. The
Right.
joys of
Add it
having a
to it,
martial
because
character.
It
Yeah.
might actually add spells, so.
Mhm.
All right, so you guys are sorted out in there. Obviously, you're not in the exact same spots that I just put you in, but they're your characters. So, but yeah, you do see that there's some sort of dragon-like creature with a rider that has a long lance that lifts off from that roof and takes off and sort of flies, sort of swoops out and flies off to the east. Titus, you're the only one who can see him clearly, this creature clearly. Do you have knowledge local
Uh,
as a skill? One of your knowledge skills?
hmm. Well, knowledge planes, knowledge arcana, and knowledge religion.
No knowledge local?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm
But that's the
blissfully
twins.
unaware.
The twins thing.
Okay. Give me a knowledge arcana.
Okay.
Although it might not be directly. Actually, you know what? Instead, give me a knowledge religion. That would be more on point.
Nice, Les. Thanks.
You bet. Knowledge religion. Okay, so yeah, you can see from here. It's hard to tell in the dark, even with dark vision, because it's quite far away. The creature's kind of big. The the person on top of it seems to be wearing some sort of uniform, and it's hard to tell in the dark, but the uniform might be red or reddish.
Is it Santa Claus?
It's not Santa.
Boss. Is Sargavin colors red?
Red and black, yeah.
Okay.
Right.
We're gonna shoot this thing from here. Or
Can
try
I
and-
hit him with a fireball?
No. I
Sure.
want to try and stay stealthy as long as we can. Fireball's going to get attention
Yeah.
of like everyone over the surrounding mile.
This thing
Well-
maybe just like recon or something, or does it look like it's on a well?
It's on some sort of dragon. Yeah, I mean, Poe, you have knowledge, nature.
Yeah, a little
Right.
bit.
Give me knowledge nature.
15.
Okay, 15. It's not a proper dragon, it's a wyvern. You can see it takes a minute for you to see it, but you can tell because of the long tail with the equally dangerous looking stinger on the back of it. That's the one thing that is the most obvious thing that separates proper dragons from wyverns is the presence of the stinger on wyverns, the poisonous stinger.
Yeah.
Do a little obscuring mist if you don't think it's going to attract attention on its own, or once it happens and we're there.
How big is the obscuring mist?
20, I believe.
Does anybody have knowledge local?
20
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
I do.
20-foot radius, so that's 40 foot. So once we're seen, we can use that to get a little cover. Or we can do it now, but some people might notice that. And
Not
think
very
that's-
good at it, but especially not with a 4.
Anybody like invisibility and or fly?
If this thing is flying away, should we just let it go? Because it's probably just
It's
doing
probably circling and
recon.
doing.
Yeah, but I mean, why don't we just go attack the fortress while it's gone, and hopefully we can get control
Yeah,
of
I
it and then
say we-
attack it when it comes back.
We run from tree to tree. If we see it coming back, then we'll just stay right under a tree so it doesn't see us. But yeah, I'm not looking to engage this thing.
Yeah, I
I'd
don't think
rather,
we should
it's
do
going to
that.
come back once we attack the tower anyway.
Right.
I'd rather separate and do that.
So Chuck, I sent you a message.
Hmm.
So yeah, he hasn't. So you're pretty sure that whoever's up there, the wyvern, has not gotten close enough to you guys to see you, or it's not looking that way. Basically, it flew off to the south and immediately turned to the east, and is sort of like doing a big loop around. Your guess is that this might be some sort of monitor from the air there, but
Reconnaissance, yeah.
yeah,
All
reconnaissance.
right.
But you also get the impression that they don't expect to see anybody.
Right. Yeah, I think if we kind of run from tree to tree, because these trees, I mean, if these are 20-foot squares, the canopy on these trees is like
They're huge, yeah,
40
big
by
trees.
40 feet. So if we just go from tree to tree, just run from one tree to the next and stop and make sure we know where this thing's at and it's not, looking our direction or coming our direction, and just kind of jump from tree to tree until we get to the top.
That could work.
Well,
You mean take the jump? You mean in the trees or
No,
under the
run
trees?
from trunk to trunk.
under
Oh,
the
gotcha, okay.
trees.
Under the
Under the
trees.
trees, because from
Hide
air,
from-
they wouldn't be able to see under the canopy.
Yeah, to hide
Gotcha.
from aerial surveillance.
Yeah, it's way over to the north right now. It's just it looks like a big loop.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
It looks like it's focusing its efforts though on the north of the
Of
thing
course.
rather than the south.
yeah, south is where all their buddies are. North is
Yeah.
where we are.
Hmm.
So
But you've
You
come
s-
around from the south because that's the way to approach
Right.
the door.
Hmm. yeah, you said that these squares are what now?
20 feet.
So that would be
Oh, the individual the grid squares, my squares on the map are 10 feet each. The bigger squares, there's bigger squares on the actual
Oh,
map.
okay.
so
So
this
instead of
is,
5-foot squares, they're 10-foot squares.
is this measurement accurate or no?
That is not accurate.
It's not double everything it says on there.
Yeah, double it.
Okay. So if that thing's moving north, I'm gonna move 15 would be 30.
Here, let me fix it. I can fix it. Here we go.
Yeah, if you go to the map, you can change it real quick.
Now I fixed it. Now you can get accurate measurements.
Okay, let's see. And that is, oh shit, not measuring. So that's the first move.
Okay.
Then as part of the double move, I'm going to get here.
Mhm.
And I'm going to use stealth.
Okay. Give me your stealth roll.
22.
22.
I'm doing the same thing.
All right. You're going with him? Give me a stealth roll?
Yeah. Hang on a sec.
Wow. Okay.
A bro
Okay.
taught me everything I know.
Oh no, you're moving up there as well?
Yes, sir.
What's that?
Oh no.
What'd you say, Mike?
And my bro has taught me everything I know. You've made me pretty sneaky for a warrior.
Oh no, did you get the message I sent you a ways back?
Oh,
Just I put mage armor on you, that's all.
oh, thank you. Oh, thank you
That's nice.
very
Mage armor is
much.
awesome.
I appreciate that. Von Drum, thank you very much. Von Drum, what does exactly that do for me?
Plus 4 AC.
+4 on your AC.
Oh, really? Oh,
And with
nobody's
it
gonna
stacks
even come
everything you
close.
normally get.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. All right, here we go. All right, this is awesome. All right, cool. This is gonna be awesome. All right, sorry. Where am I? Mage armor is really cool.
All right. So, Odo, where are you moving? Are you moving to the same tree?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find me on the map. I'm not.
They're down at the very bottom.
You're
There,
right here.
I thought I was off the map. There I am. I got you. There I Yeah,
I cast message.
Okay.
Good call.
Actually,
All right. So Ono, Wraith, and Arendar are sort of all clustered around under the tree. Titus casts message so everybody can talk. What about the rest of you? Titus or Vondram Polarm, are you guys going to approach as well? Are you going to hang back or?
Well, I was gonna do a double move to the same tree, but it's getting a little crowded, but a double move is gonna put you.
Technically, we can both. We're taking up a 10 by 10 foot square, which we
Yeah,
don't do.
you guys
so.
can fit under that tree if you want.
Okay.
So just
My little
get close to
legs-
us, and we'll know we're all under the same tree.
each square is 5 feet.
10 feet.
10
10
feet.
If I can get within, 50 feet, I can just wind jump up there. And I can see what's up there.
Well, it's not quite like that because we're below it right now. So not only do you have the distance to go side to side,
You
but
guys are going
Yeah.
uphill.
we're going uphill, so you'd have to go even higher. So
Each one of these plateaus is a 20-foot increase.
right.
So, okay, I see.
So
Huh.
like right now, if I measured,
Yeah.
it shows that we're 110 feet from there, but we're
Okay.
also down like 80 feet.
Okay,
Yeah, so
cool.
that'd be 190 feet.
Okay, well, it's going to be really, really easy for me to hop up these.
Right.
Just hop up.
Once you get up to probably the second to the last plateau, the plus 81.
Yeah.
From there, probably you'll be able to do it.
Okay, yeah. Les, I rolled a 26 stealth.
Yep.
How much mileage does that get me stealth wise?
Well, the stealth are opposed to is opposed to perception, right? So you guys have various stealth rolls. Periodically, I roll a perception check to see if
Okay.
anybody has it has the opportunity to see you.
Right. Because they're not all looking right at us. They're looking all different directions and
Right.
Well, one thing that you may have in your advantage, and I think Titus would probably point out that the presence of the lights. So the other outposts you went to, all of them had dwarves, and most of their leadership was dwarven, right? So either the chaplain or the sergeant was usually. I think there was maybe one of the previous 5 that you went to that had a human sergeant. But there were easily half and sometimes more than half of the crew were dwarves. Dwarves have dark vision, right? So they didn't have any fires out. The presence
Yeah.
of these fires
means there's a bunch of humans.
it might mean that there's a bunch of humans. Also, the presence of these fires, which would be known to you guys, if they're looking at the fires, that's going to screw up their dark vision, screw up their night vision. So, it's like you say when you're out in the field, you face away from the fire, not towards it, because then you turn away and you can't see anything because you've been staring at a fire. So it looks like at least somebody with some tactical skill placed these fires in order to put as much light down the path as possible. Probably what they were guarding is they want to see if anybody's coming up the path. But if there's a bunch of humans up there, they need light, right? So basically, those are supposed to light up the path. So you might be okay. You might be helped by the fact that it's dark. Ono won't be so much, but the rest of you might be.
I see. Okay.
Titus, what about you? Are you going to hang back or are you going to join them
I'm
under that tree?
going to cast invisibility and fly if I can do that. Both.
On yourself?
Yes.
Okay, hold 1 second. I'm going to get you an invisibility token. Okay.
Anybody else want these same things?
Anybody
Well,
else want to fly or is seeing things? What did you say?
Fly and or invisibility.
well, yeah, obviously, but I think
I
I'm
think
too
we'd all
far
take
away.
that. That'd be
Well, you
awesome.
won't be shortly.
Okay, well, if you want to cast flying invisibility, Wraith will
Yeah,
volunteer.
those, so.
Titus, do you
I've-
see a purple? Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody's
I
probably
see a
seen.
purple dot.
I
Okay, that's you.
volunteer as tribute.
Okay, so I will hover above Wraith at about 30
I
feet,
figure
cast flying invisibility.
Arendar and Ono are all fairly stealthy. I think we can approach just on our stealth skill up to it. Some of the others might not be as stealthy and they might need the invisibility.
Ono does have a pretty good stealth capacity.
Yeah,
Well, Wraith is now invisible and flying.
yeah. All of our martial characters are pretty stealthy, so.
Oh, is not stealthy.
Bondrum is not
No.
stealth.
No,
I-
and that's why if you're gonna give invisibility, those two would probably, because that adds like what, 20 year stealth or 40 or something like
40.
that? Yeah,
It
it
has
adds a
40
ton
or
to
yourself.
stealth.
So Titus, speaking of stealth, give me a quick perception check.
Okay. I have to update all these, but that's close enough for biscuits and horseshoes. Oh, geez.
Okay, what'd you roll?
9.
9. Okay, not great, but you do see from your vantage point, you do see
Oh,
that.
hang on.
Okay,
I rolled the wrong dice.
great.
I rolled stealth. Sorry,
roll.
perception?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure you're much better at perception.
29.
Much
Yeah.
better.
Okay, the up high enough, you see a couple of things that that you get. Would you get a 29?
Yes,
That's
sir.
crazy. Okay.
He sees it
So
all.
you see a couple of because you're higher up than the tree, you get a better vantage point. You're actually about 10 feet higher than the roof of the building. So you see two things. First thing you see is that wyvern guy come in for a landing from the north, and he just kind of skids to a stop. A couple of other guys on top of there sort of go over there and sort of start helping the guy off of his wyvern. Second, you can see that there's a bunch of dudes up there. You're looking at maybe 5 dudes plus the wyvern guy. There's also a little bonfire up there that's burning merrily and sort of illuminating the whole area.
And I relay this to everyone through message.
Okay.
All right.
So
Well, right
y'all
now,
know
if you can
everything
see they're all over on the northern side, then they can't see the southern side at all. So we can just start making
No,
our
there's
way-
nobody looking over the southern side.
So we can just start making our way up the side of the hill.
Okay. So is that what you do?
Yeah, yeah, Titus, why don't you stay up there and let us know when you see one of them start to go over to the southern side or start to look off the southern side so we know to like get to the nearest tree and just kind of hunker down and hide.
Okay.
But
I will
until he says
automatically
something,
pass that through messaging. So
yeah,
Okay.
rest
until he
assured.
does that, we can all just start hauling it up to the wall.
We're just moving less. We're not on initiative yet, I guess. Is that-
No, you guys are just moving, and according to Titus, those guys are all sort of on the back half of the building. They're helping the wyvern rider off of his wyvern and sort of taking his his stuff. So it doesn't look like they're, to be honest, it doesn't look like they're paying a shit ton of attention.
Okay. So if I move one more movement, I guess. Or one more double move.
Yeah.
And I'm invisible and flying, right?
Yes.
I thought Titus was. You're invisible too?
Yes, I cast it on Wraith as well.
Okay. All right, Wraith, there's your circle. See if you can you see that one?
Yeah.
All right, let me see. I'm just gonna put all players. It doesn't seem to work well. So there's yours. You are that circle.
And now I can control it. So I'll move up to here.
All right. Everybody give me another stealth roll.
So add 40 to stealth for invisible?
Yep.
Okay, so 47 or better. That's
78.
78. That's pretty good.
And I add 40.
Oh, pretty much whistle.
You're
whistle
no, you don't
money
add 40.
work
You're not
as he does this.
visible.
Okay.
It's not bad.
Add 40, 52.
Okay. 52. All right. So let me just do a quick roll.
30.
Second.
Natural 1.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys, so they're up there, and you guys get as far as this. I mean, you guys can get up if you want to. You can get up to the next barrier, but I mean, it doesn't seem like they're paying a ton of attention.
I'm gonna crouch right. I mean, with my 30 stealth roll, I'm gonna crouch right under the wall and kind of just hunker down. And if I need to, I can go up the wall. If I need to, I can go easily
Excellent.
back down. I also have slow fall, which helps me. If I'm near a wall, I can go down the wall. It's
I was gonna say, Bondrum and Wraith need to get next to Polearm because he's gonna jump us up there.
Gotcha. All right.
Woo. Right.
Mike, does dimensional hop need to touch? Is it like the regular teleport where you have to touch? Probably.
I assume if you take people, yeah, you have to touch them. Because Dimension Door and Teleport are all the same way. If you're taking someone with you, you have to touch them.
Okay. So what's the plan? So you guys get up close. You guys get all the way up to the thing, and it doesn't, as far as you could tell, and Wraith and Titus are in the air, so, and invisible, so they can see. These guys are all sort of
Right.
like, you could see that the guy has dismounted, and the Wyvern is sort of just standing there. It looks pretty intelligent, but it's just kind of sort of over by the thing. And then the
So-
guy has got off, and he is actually talking to some of the dudes on the over by those barrels. The other guys seem to be either checking the loads on the ballistas or dealing with just like maintenance or something like that.
But I want to kill the Wyvern, and I'll go after the Wyvern, but the rider might be one of the ones in charge.
Yeah.
Could be.
So
I'm gonna flap the side of the building so that I can see the individuals basically.
Okay.
Titus,
All
will
of
you
them.
tell everybody to get 30 feet away from me, and I'll cast Blessing of Fervor on everybody before we start this.
okay.
All right. So, Wraith, give me a perception check.
30.
All right. So you're flying high enough where you see over the crenellations. You're literally looking down onto the platform, right?
Yeah.
Same as Titus. All right. So you see a couple of things. One, you see all these guys. You also see this guy over here. Whoops, I got to be on the right thing. You see this guy over here, and he's talking with these two guys. The Wyvern is sort of like hunkered. It looks like it's sort of getting ready to like lay down. It's turning in circles and that kind of thing. And there's a patch of like debris over there that it's kind of getting ready to lay down on. But then it stops, and you can see its snout sort of go up in the air. And you can hear the guy sort of look over and say, "What is it, girl? Is there something wrong? What do you smell?" And you can see the Wyvern is sort of sniffing at the air.
Okay.
Are all these people human?
They're all humans.
Then I'll drop that back down a little bit. Not that it'll
Okay.
do anything about smell, but
Well, it'll go away.
I'll drop back down a little bit. And using message, I'll let everybody know that all of these individuals are human. So if someone who's invisible goes up and smothers that fire, they can't see.
Oh no, can't either, but the rest of us can.
Right. That's the drawback. So we can blind them all before we start attacking, but then Ono's not going to be able to see. If you leave the fire there, they can see to attack, and so can Ono. So that's kind of the question.
I mean, once
and
Ono
not-
gets uptight with somebody, can't he? See?
He'd still have a,
Like-
no, if he couldn't see, he'd still have 50-50 miss chance every time. Even if he knew
And
where the guy was.
It's
And-
dark of the night too. It's probably 1 a.m. It's cold out here.
The other thing to note is the
yeah.
wyvern apparently has scent detection.
Yeah.
You're guessing it smells something.
Right.
Can we cast light on Ono? Something that he can like uncover in increments on his arm, like a bracelet, like if he's wearing a bracer or.
Oh, there's already light. If we want him to see, then we can just keep the fire going.
Right. Ono has a cap of light.
Well, I just meant that something that he could cover incrementally.
Hmm.
So he could have small amounts of light to be able to move.
You want him to have like a flashlight.
Yeah.
Like point one direction and only light up a certain area and not.
Yeah.
Whereas all the other humans would still be basically blind.
Exactly.
They would just
Like-
be drawn to Ono with a flashlight.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh
It
no,
doesn't
we'll
have to
get
be
all
a
the
flashlight that
attacks.
goes 30 feet. I'm thinking something more like if he was to roll up a pant leg and we hit his sock and he could roll his pant leg up and down to get just enough so he doesn't fall on his face.
Hey,
Like something subtle.
Hey, Poe, give me a perception check when you get a minute.
Yeah, that
Never mind.
doesn't go well.
What does the cap of light do?
I don't even remember where I got that thing. I got it a long time ago.
This small cloth skull cap. Jesus Christ. This small cloth skull cap resembles the ones that priests wear, but is topped with a small silver statue in the shape of a lit candle. The wearer can command the statue to radiate light as the light spell and can be turned off on command. So it's a little knit cap with a statue on the top of it.
That's awesome.
You've got a yarmulke with a candle on top of it.
Pretty
Yes.
much. Pretty much.
It
It's
took-
a
it took-
Jewish spelunker.
Took the propeller off, put on a candle.
We needed to talk about fashion sense, Ono.
Yeah.
So I have that. I normally don't wear it because it shines very brightly.
No.
I keep it in my pouch anyway. But if I need to have light, I can. But that really removes all stealth from our.
It's all stealth.
Well, yeah, if you have a lighted hat, yeah, that's sort of like people are like, there he is, right there,
And
the
if
guy
you're
with the
within-
hat.
If you're
I
with
see 'em.
every enemy you're within 30 feet of, then they're no longer blind.
No.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want me to distract them, I could run north 4 ways, turn on my cap of light.
Yeah, just down,
do a
just
little
go on the
dance.
path and hello, gents, just checking in on the facilities.
Well, I'm thinking that if you can get on the roof without being seen,
Yeah,
then smother the fire,
right.
potentially have a surprise round because they're not going to know what the hell happened.
Yeah,
And then as soon as that's over and fighting begins in earnest, then you can turn on the cap so that you can move and attack people.
right. Well, I mean, with wind jump, I think wind jump was kind of modeled on that flying tiger creeping drag. Wait, no, flying creep. No,
Crouching
Dragon.
tiger, hidden dragon.
thank you. Right. Thank you.
Nothing
Well, it
happened
lasts
about
for a minute too.
nothing was creeping or hiding or having supper.
Supping dragon, climbing.
All right,
Fine.
cool. But I mean, Ono can easily, just as though he were walking or running, sail over that wall, dump water or earth on the fire, kick someone, and jump back. And he moves fast.
Well, I was thinking about having one of the invisible folks go and smother the fire with
Yeah,
like
just
a
take like a
blanket.
big old
Yeah, just throw a blanket on it.
blanket or something. Just-
Okay, yeah, all right. How big is the fire?
It's relatively big campfire size. It's obviously they've got like a some sort of pot up there that they're using to to keep the thing in, keep the fire in. So it's like campfire size. You can see periodically it's quite cold out, so that periodically these guys go over there, warm up by the fire, and
Yeah.
and then go back to wherever they
Right.
were working on.
But if you had a winter blanket, you could basically flip that and throw it and drop it on top of it, and that'll smother that fire. The light of it
Or-
is not going to go completely out, but it is going to go really dark.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Instantly.
Probably pretty dark anyway. I mean, a fire is only what, like 20 foot maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not huge.
If you can make me invisible, I can kind of sail, fly, wind jump over there, extinguish the blaze, wind jump out. No one can see me still because I haven't hit anybody. No one would. I mean, it would be like it would be as though a sudden mound of earth flew down from the air, extinguishing the fire. Is that how that would work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable assumption. I don't, it's
Yeah, the
I
only
mean,
question is invisibility goes away if you attack.
Right.
So
But-
the question would be, do you consider
Something
smothering
out
a
of water.
fire an attack?
I mean,
I would.
attacking their
Was that pointed at me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not an attack. So an attack is just simply attack is against another person or creature.
Right. So
So smothering a fire is not. It's not an attack.
well,
yeah, so
Oh.
you could do that.
so from their perspective, I could just sail in,
And dump the thing over and dump it all over the fire.
yeah, and and
Yeah, it's just like a bowl, a big ceramic bowl.
it's great. Or any bodies we need to dispose of. I could dump those in the fire.
That's what I like about you, Ono. Always thinking ahead.
So, jeez. All right.
Sooner I can burn these, the sooner I can forget I did this.
Right. So, well,
All right.
anyway, but I mean, that's just one option to get the fire out, surprise them. I could,
Yeah. I say we do that.
Yeah.
Let Owen go do his plan, and as soon as he douses it, then Poe can jump the rest of us to the top of the wall right next to where we're standing, and then we jump in.
and cool. And
I'm gonna move over to here.
Was everybody close enough to do blessing of fervor? Everybody get 30 feet from me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
so
I'm
that's
gonna move
done.
over here so that when the fighting starts, I can go, I'm just below the wall level. But I can go the 5-foot step to go above wall level and shoot this guy and get sneak attack because I'm close.
How long does Blessing of Fervor last? Is it minutes?
No.
Yeah.
No,
rounds.
it's rounds.
It's rounds,
eight
Oh,
okay.
is it? Oh, okay.
All right. Do we want to roll initiative just so that we got
maybe
Yeah.
a
Next time on
timeline?
initiative.
Cool. All right.
Well,
Let's
I'll
do that.
say this, if I guess we're initiative. All right.
Woo-hoo-hoo. All right.
Oh no, you should have raised your hand when I asked.
Wait, oh, wait, wait. Ask. I'm sorry. I totally missed that.
Oh, if you want to be invisible,
Oh, yes, please, if I can be.
are we in initiative now or?
Yeah, we're
Might
going
go.
into initiative because that way we can keep track, because he cast a spell that has a rounds thing on it, so I needed to keep track of it.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yes, please, if I can be, I would love to be in.
Okay, before I roll initiative, I'm going to cast invisibility.
On Ono?
Yes, please.
Yes.
All right.
I'm going to be the fly-in invisible monk.
All right, there's your purple square.
Thank you, sir.
Circle.
Thank you, sir.
So who's the invisible person behind Vondrum? I'm assuming that's Titus, and Wraith is over on this side.
Yes, I am. That purple smudge behind
Gotcha.
Bondrum.
Wait, I think that's me. Les, I think that's me.
This one's you.
Oh, that's me here.
Yep.
I can't select me now.
You should be able to. Hold on.
I can select me here. I can.
Oh no, I took you're the invisible smudge now. When you come back, you will be seen.
You're just a little purple thing now.
Try now then. Try moving that now.
Okay, yes, thank you. But I'm just trying to select me so that I can roll my.
You're
Yeah.
this purple smudge. You should be able to move it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And,
Thank you.
and select it for initiative.
So you hit your initiative once you select it.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I gotcha. So, should I roll? Yeah.
Hold on a
Yeah.
second.
Initiative.
I'm gonna put you into initiative at the
Yes, sir.
same thing. So go ahead and roll.
Yes, sir. All right. That's terrible. That's terrible.
It's not so
Well,
bad.
15.
Titus, what did you roll? That's for your
15.03.
okay, 15.03. Cool.
Steppengard is fast, and so
And
is
Wraith, what did you roll?
is fast.
What's the other invisible guy? 1906.
1906. Okay.
Arendar likes killing people, so he's fast at that.
He's very good at that.
It's the one thing he's good. Oh no, it's not one thing, but he is good at killing things.
He does his job very well.
Yes. And takes a little bit too much pride in that, but everybody's got to have their flaws.
All right. So Arendar, you're gonna be first up.
I am waiting for Poe.
All right. Waiting for Poe.
Okay, everybody reach out, grab me. I'm gonna go up.
All right.
So
Well, hold
Wraith and Titus are flying. Is Ono also flying? Or no,
Uh,
Ono, you've got that
y-
fly
y-
thing that you're
on.
doing.
Yeah. I'm gonna go on my own. And hold on. Now, is it my? Can I make a plan first for me? Because
Yeah, I'm just gonna add it into the thing. So
yes, sir.
yeah, you're good.
Because I thought that I was gonna try to jump in there and extinguish the fire
First.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. So I thought Poe was grabbing everybody in dimension hopping
Oh.
up there.
I'm sorry. You know what? I think
He is, but we're doing that after the fire gets extinguished.
Yeah, all of us are moving after the fire gets
All right. So
extinguished.
after
Yeah.
Ono does his wind jump,
Right.
that's when you guys are gonna go.
yes.
Right.
So
All right.
I'm sorry. Les, I should have
So that's you. No, that's cool.
communicated.
We're all good.
So my thought is this: how much dirt can I carry and dump on top of that flame?
Well, not much if you're just using your hands. If
Right.
you've got a bucket or something like that, more.
Well,
What about
I
the
do have-
blanket? I thought we were using a
Yeah,
blanket.
you're going to use a blanket. You
Yeah.
put
I
the
have
blanket
a
down,
blanket.
and then you dump that bucket of liquid on it. So then the blanket gets all wet, and
Yeah, just
Yeah,
kick the wood apart and then throw a blanket over it. It'll go dark.
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. Can I carry all of that? Now, my movement rate
Also use the blanket.
it has increased to 50.
Yeah.
So if I'm which smudge? I'm this smudge here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a 6 up to here.
That's 30.
Where are you going? I didn't see it.
I'm just trying to plan my path,
Okay.
because my plan is to wind jump in while in
Invisible.
right,
Got it.
dump a lot of
Sorry.
stuff on the fire, land somewhere, and maybe punch somebody.
That's too much for one round. You'll be able to land and probably dump stuff on the fire, and that'll be probably it.
All right, okay.
At least the first round.
You know what? Then if that's what I can do, then I'll be grateful if I can do that. I think I can do that and still stay invisible.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you don't attack anybody,
Gotcha.
you're fine.
I'm Mr.
Let me
Peaceful.
read, real quick, let me read Blessing of Fervor. You can add 30 feet to your speed.
Oh,
You can stand up
Or-
swiftly with no attack of opportunity. You get 1 extra attack,
dang.
or +2 to attack AC reflex,
Well, that
That's a
or you get a
very-
spell bonus.
that
So, I mean,
additional
there's
30 feet should
options.
solve all
Yeah,
those
but-
Yeah,
problems.
that 30
You get
feet.
an
will
extra
definitely
30.
do.
Good Lord.
And you can change that each round. So you can use the 30 first round, and then second round, either get the extra attack or add to your both your attacks and AC.
Nah.
That's a very strong spell.
Yes, it's very nice.
Wow. Woo. Oh my gosh. Dang.
I hate it.
Jeez, what a spell that
I
is.
hate it.
Hey. Oh my God.
That
Well,
spell
thank you.
stinks.
Jeez. Blessing of
That's what-
Fervor. I gotta write that down.
Make it 11.
Oh, is it? Is it 11 already? Oh, geez. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Do you guys
Ooh,
do you
right.
do you well, okay, so I know that there are people who need sleep. So do you guys want to stop here at the point of Ono jumping up to drop the blanket?
You know what? I think we should.
Yeah.
Okay, we can do
just
that.
'cause, I gotta get up very early in the morning.
Yeah, I forget you're on the East Coast too, so it's later than that
Um,
even for you.
Have it a great. This is a great. This was a really excellent, tactical game. And having
Hey.
fun. Just we're gonna go up there and
Thanks, bud.
dump the fire out and then punch everybody. It's gonna be great. I,
Awesome.
I can't wait. Thank you.
You bet. All right, well, we'll stop there. And then when we start again later, I guess early next month, then we will begin at the point of blanket.
Yes.
Under blanket.
Like to play. All right.
All right. Don't forget, just before you guys head out, I'm running some one shots. I still got open slots for one shots, including in the New Year's Eve game. So let me know if you want in. We'll play some. I'm going to be running Vaesen, which I think is a fantastic game, and I'm also going to be running a Deadlands one shot alongside
Awesome.
the Christmas game, which is a 5e variant.
Cool.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
Nice.
All right. You guys have a great week.
Yeah.
Les,
Thanks,
can
Les.
you hang out a second?
Yeah, sure.
After-
Absolutely.
Take care. Good night.
Thank you.
No.
Right all.